Hey guys, welcome to the Irrelevant RockCast, episode 6 with me, Matt Mills.
Mr. DuPont.
And me, Matanza Mafia Fedora.
How poetic. Today we'll be talking about Baby Metal, Biffy Clyro, the Blackstone Cherry Arena Tour, and I'll be doing an album review of Lost Society's Brain Dead. And also we'll be discussing the death of Earth, Wind and Fire's Maurice White, as well as 2 new festival announcements, and we'll be doing our top 5 favourite artists of all time.
Yes, and just to make this clear, Mr. Matt Mills here, because he's back, he is now permanent on our team.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute
honour. We're now a
honour.
free piece. We are a free piece.
Yep.
And don't forget to hit us up on social media. We now have a Facebook page, The Irrelevant RockCast. We have a SoundCloud as well, same name, and we have a YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe. I can't speak today. Thanks for
Okay,
that.
then. So,
Right.
tell us where to begin.
I think we can begin with Baby Metal.
Okay.
Last week we talked about them, and you had no idea what we were talking about. Now that you've heard them, what do you think?
I understand why people would have issues with them, because they get more people, more following them and going to their gigs than much more talented bands. And I'm guessing it's probably just because, well, Japanese music is such a, more Asian culture is so different to us in general in Occidental/Western culture that, you know, it creeps into everything, metal including. But, yeah, like, I think it really was a bizarre thing just to get introduced to, and I understand perfectly why people would take issue with them, because, yeah, they're different, but they're not exactly more talented than other bands out there that do deserve that kind of spotlight, especially in an age where the spotlight, which they do deserve, gets overshadowed by, you know, people of, shall we say, not as much impressive stuff in terms of their set list, their persona, and just stuff in other genres that really gets on our nerves and takes up the charts.
Yeah, I always thought of them as like an artificial metal band. Because I think one of them's 14 and like 2 of them are 12.
Yeah.
So like it's...
You could
like,
see them as a novelty in many
yeah,
ways.
they're not getting together because they want to make music. They're getting together because a businessman somewhere wants to make music and market these 3 girls and a backing band.
Yes, my first impression when I first heard them it was either, I think it was the beginning of 2014, it was around the time I was working, and I found them on Facebook, the Gimme Chocolate music video.
Oh God!
And people, and the first impression was humour. People found it funny.
Yeah.
People thought, "What the hell is this?" And the immediate impression was, "This is awesome."
And
but then when they went on to start selling out places, then it got a bit. Hang on a minute, people actually care about this.
Yeah,
you've got like the next Steel Panther in a way here, except. I love Steel Panther.
Can I just...
Do not call them that ever again, or else I will get violent on this rockcast.
Okay, can I
never compare Steel Panther
If
and
I may,
fucking Baby Metal
if I
ever
may,
again.
Matt Mills.
Sorry, go for it.
Yeah. When I first heard their song, Gimme Chocolate, from Mr. DuPont here, actually explained to me, I thought it was literally just going to be a bunch of, you know, really, really death metal screams going, "Gimme chocolate!"
It would have been better. It actually would have been better.
Yeah, it would have been better, but sadly that is not the case.
No, when you did that impression of Baby Metal, you sounded like Skeleton Witch. Like,
But that was what he thought Baby Metal would have sounded like.
So like death metal.
That is what I would have actually expected that to be.
This
and
was
I would have
actually-
expected it just to be a death metal way of, you know, making a send up to every spoiled brat as a
The thing
kid.
is though, like I was alright with Baby Metal, like when they were a joke, and then they were announced at Sonosphere,
And you saw them.
and then they were announced at Sonosphere, and I was like, oh,
And you saw them.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. You're
Lord.
interested. You're not a fan, but you as a music fan are keen to see what the big deal's about.
the thing is that there was such, like you talk about like Japanese music and like that sort of
like
culture against Western culture.
Yeah, just like Oriental culture versus Occidental culture, which is East versus West for those that don't get the terms. But yeah, basically, it is such a contrast because, well, you know, everything from like the ancient philosophy going up to the contemporary, more modern stuff, like what separates cartoons in Western Hemisphere versus anime in Eastern Hemisphere. It's just very different, but the music is one of the strangest aspects of everything, and metal was no exception to that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think that sort of came to light when they were at Sonosphere, because what happened was, like, the backing band came out first, like these Japanese women that were all dressed up. They had like the white paint, they had white robes on, and like sort of black face paint, like a black metal band.
Yeah.
And they started tuning up. Like, the guitarists were like doing these amazing solos, and then like the bassists were like doing these bass solos and blah 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 blah. And then they just left the stage again. And then they came back on, started doing the same thing. The crowd started booing because they were like, "What the hell is this? It's a waste of my goddamn time," you know. And then things that
They went down a storm. I have friends who do like them, who said it was one of the most enjoyable acts of the weekend, or artists on the main stage.
the things that they were tuning up and they were getting booed because they were taking forever. And then people were like, "Boo, boo, you suck."
They got a huge crowd.
But the response that the guitarists had while they were being booed was, "Fuck yeah!" Like, they started like raising the metal horns, sticking their tongues out, smiling, sort of clapping, going, "Yeah, we love you!" And they're getting booed out of the arena, and the crowd is just like, "We want the 3 little girls!"
Oh no,
Which is a sentence I never want to hear again.
But actually, you would probably get away with saying that in Japan because, let's just say that, well, you have to be at least, it's 16 over here to, you know...
It's 14 in Japan, isn't it?
Yeah.
13.
Is it 13 now?
Oh, Japan.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, Japan.
By the way, guys, Baby Metal are one of the most talked about metal bands that I have actually yet to see. I have had chances to see them. That's Sonosphere. I mentioned on the last episode that I was in Hyde Park that weekend. Also, Reading is not my cup of tea. They played on the main stage last year. They also sold
serious?
out. Yeah.
They played the Reading main stage?
Yeah, Saturday. Same day as Metallica.
God.
Yeah, see, Matt, you're learning new things.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Matt, I am sorry if you've just heard a couple of things. I don't know which of those two things shocked you more.
Oh God,
It's the Reading one.
We're beginning my second episode with me having a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Like,
Now you know how it felt when
main
I
stage
turned
at Reading
18.
supporting Metallica. I think I'm losing the will to live.
No, also,
But the thing, like, I really lost my will to live when this band, because I talked about Loudwire, the publication, last week. Every year they do the Loudwire Awards, because all these magazines do awards now.
Yeah.
And like they had Album of the Year awards. Yeah, you might be able to tell where I'm going with this.
yeah, it's Baby Metals is going to be in there.
They had Iron Maiden, Book of Souls, and like all these amazing albums that came out last year. Last year was a great year for metal. Fucking Baby Metal, with their self-titled debut, won Loudwire's Best Album of the Year, and I died inside.
Did that come out in 2015 or 14?
I don't care.
Okay. I thought it was 14, but I may be wrong.
It won the Album of the Year award.
And by the way, the reason why they're currently relevant to talk about is this reason. They sold out Brixton Academy.
Yep.
And they are playing a headline show at Wembley Arena, which, from what I have seen online, is nearly sold out. Which is unbelievable.
I think it is sold out.
Which is unbelievable. 12,500 people in Wembley wanting to go and see this band that, to many people, are a novelty and considered a joke.
It's the entire Japanese population of London. That's all it is.
The entire Japanese population of London, plus the entire fan domain of anything anime related in Comic Con at London MCM.
It is going to be like going to Comic Con.
Yeah, well, actually, take it from a guy who's, becoming a regular at many different smaller Comic Cons. It wouldn't be a bad thing to see as an experiment, just to see, what the hype is about, but I doubt I'm really going to have much enjoyment out of it. Because I'm going to be seeing essentially a crowd that should be going mental for Skindred or Judas Priest, and they're going metal for a novelty.
Who's supporting Baby Metal?
No, absolute no idea. But regardless of who's supporting, they'd still sell just as
because
many
if it's
tickets.
a legit Japanese band like Crossfaith,
yeah,
that would be infuriating.
I doubt
that would be
it.
infuriating.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But
Really?
I can't see that happening.
Like,
No,
you can't imagine Crossfaith taking the stage and be like, yeah, who's excited for the
No,
three
no,
little
but-
girls coming up
No,
next?
but what I mean is fair play to CrossFit
Can you
playing at
please
Wembley.
not say that? That's actually getting a bit disturbing.
No,
No, Matt, please. That actually disturbs me a little bit.
it's all right. We won't bring that up again. But one thing we
I'll tell you what, we'll move on because we're talking about Wembley Arena. This brings us very neatly to the Blackstone Cherry Tour.
Okay.
Because they were at Wembley the other day.
Yes.
Mr. DuPont is the person that wanted to bring this up. So what did you want to say about Blackstone Cherry?
Overall, Blackstone Cherry are in many ways all reliable. They love the UK. They have been embraced. Overall, I do like them. I have seen them 2 or 3 times, but I do feel that every record has got weaker, and during that time they have got bigger. My favourite album is the debut, and they've got 4 records, a 5th one on the way.
5th one's very
Yes.
April.
Yes, and the interesting thing is, to some people, I was talking to my friend in the pub actually earlier before today, who to him, he will always see Blackstone Cherry as the support act, the band supporting Def Leppard, and the band who are like the current young breed of classic rock who are always going to get bigger, and that's happened. However, the interesting thing is we were talking about Wembley Arena. Blackstone Cherry have played 2 arena tours. Mm-hmm. However, they have had huge support acts.
Yes.
Like Shinedown, Hailstorm, Airborne, Theory of a Dead Man.
I saw them at Wembley Arena. My first ever show was Theory of a Dead Man, Blackstone
Airborne.
Cherry.
I was there, man.
Theory of a Dead Man, Blackstone Cherry, and Alter Bridge.
That tour. Yeah, because they were supporting Alter Bridge as well. I forgot to mention
they got an
second
hour
ago.
and a half on that stage. They got the same length of time as Alter Bridge got. They might as well have been headlining.
Yeah.
The crowd was into it, man.
Yeah,
I think Blackstone Cherry completely deserve to headline an arena tour because they have that relationship with the fans. They posted something on their Facebook the other day. It was footage of a performance of Things My Father Said.
Yeah, crowd sing it.
And the crowd sung it all the way through. If you get that reaction from a crowd, I don't care who you are, unless you're baby metal, you deserve a headline UK arena tour.
No, I agree. I just find, in many ways, they deserve it. I just think that, for me, I prefer Shinedown. Shinedown is a support act. For me, Shinedown are a better band than Blackstone Cherry. Now, okay, I haven't heard Shinedown's latest album, which I've read mixed reviews from.
It's all right.
Maybe it's an album I should.
It's what you expect.
Everything before them was awesome. And for me, I don't know, I just feel like Shinedown should be in Blackstone Cherry's position.
So you'd swap Blackstone Cherry and
Shinedown, yeah.
I completely disagree. I think Blackstone Cherry's... I sort of tuned out of Blackstone Cherry for a while. I got all their albums up to...
Magic Mountain?
No, I got all their albums up to Devil and Deep Blue Sea.
Yes.
Which was 2011?
Yes.
Yeah, I loved Devil and Deep Blue Sea.
That album was a huge boost for the band.
Oh, it was great. It was a great band. No, that's all right. Yeah, I thought we can edit this out. It's fine.
Yeah.
That album was a great boost for the band. And then when Magic Mountain came out, like I'd moved on to like heavier things. Like
yes, we've all been to that point. It's a bit like when you're a kid and you love nu metal, and then you get into classic rock.
I'd moved on to heavy. I'd moved on to like Metallica and Megadeth and stuff. So I didn't really pay much attention when Magic Mountain came out. Now Kentucky's coming out. That they've drawn.
Is that the name of the new album?
The new album's called Kentucky. Yeah.
Okay.
They've drawn my attention again because I'm in talks with their PR manager.
Okay.
Because I've got an interview with Wilson coming up.
Right.
And the PR manager for Wilson is also the PR manager for Blackstone Cherry. She's the PR manager for Trivium, the PR manager for Slipknot. She's the PR manager for these massive acts. So I've sort of got a bit of a network of people I have to pay attention to now. So
got you.
I am not going to say a bad word about Blackstone Cherry out of fear of annoying said PR woman.
No, that's absolutely fine. Matt, what's your impression of Blackstone Cherry?
For what little I have heard of Blackstone Cherry, which isn't really enough to say anything massive or too low as of yet, I like what I've heard, but I'm a little bit hesitant to say too much at this point because I feel there is a lot more I'd need to have before I can actually give a proper like or proper dislike thing. For what I do know and what I have heard, I can still listen to them very easily on a day-to-day basis, and I might be interested, if I only had the time and I had the finance of going to the tour, but it would be, one of those things that would have to happen for me, I think, really to get a proper taste, because there are some acts I feel, I just need to get up front and personal, just seeing them perform to actually get a proper view of them. And, well, I just want to really get to know a few more bands without actually having to just go and search them out. I want to probably even try and just see if maybe a few people can get me into bands just by listening to them live for a change. And yeah, well, anyway, my point is really I like what I've heard. I haven't actually heard enough yet, but I feel there is probably a lot I'm missing.
I love them. I can't say enough good stuff about them.
You know, you're talking about Wembley, the 2014 show.
Yeah.
For me, Airborne destroyed them.
No, it wasn't the Airborne show. It was the Ultra Bridge show. Back in
That one.
2011. We're going
My
back
mistake.
We're going back in time. Pay attention to Pont. Keep up.
No, I agree. No, I agree. It's just I went. Do you know the tour I'm on about? The tour with their first headline arena tour at the end of 2014 was Blackstone Cherry, Airborne, and Fury of a Dead.
That was supporting
Magic Mountain, which in my opinion is a poor album.
I've not listened to it. It's the only one so far I've not listened to.
In the future, maybe even once the album's out and they're, there's a download announcement tonight. They could be announced, as could Baby Metal. Who knows? But we'll talk about.
Can we stop talking about Baby Metal, please?
We'll talk about that later. But one thing I will say is that I feel like on the next arena tour or the next festival set, the only song that will be played from Magic Mountain is Me and Mary Jane because it was the big hit. And
that was
crowd sing along.
That was the only one I've heard actually.
Yeah,
I have heard Me and Mary Jane.
Yeah, and I just heard the album and I just thought, I don't know, I just felt like there was a little bit of an identity crisis in a way, which is so strange because obviously where the first two out, the first one was very rooted in like Southern classic rock and the second one had a few more power ballads and the third one was a bit cornier.
I think the third one sort of went back to the roots of Southern rock because like White Trash Millionaire is such a Southern
it was also
kick in the
slightly
teeth.
80s sing-along kind of classic rock.
ZZ Toppy. I think their new album is going to be the same based on... Because they got a new single called In Our Dreams. Yeah, it's very similar. I think they're going to go back to very 80s Southern kick you in the face rock.
By the way, one band, and not to properly go off topic, but one band who are amongst the Southern who are really picking up a following are a band called the Cadillac Free. Have you heard of them?
I think I've heard of them.
I've not heard of them, no.
I recommend you guys check them out. Maybe we could even discuss them in the future.
Can you give me a track, maybe?
We'll do on Facebook or YouTube. But yeah, they're a band that I've seen a couple of times. But anyway,
in general, I'm not actually a massive fan of Southern rock.
Yeah.
The only exceptions being Shinedown and Blackstone Cherry. And Blackstone Cherry are my favourite of the subgenre, I'd say.
Yeah. Got you. But yeah, neither of us went to the arena tour.
Sorry, Matt?
Leonard Skinner all the way.
Yeah. But yeah,
the D is silent. It's Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, man.
That's what I said.
You said Skinner.
I said Leonard Skinner.
Well, maybe I'm going mad then. Sorry. DuPont, carry on.
No, that's absolutely fine. None of us went to this arena tour, but it's something that I have friends who went to, and they said nothing but good things, but they're fans. And I'll tell you what, Shinedown, Blackstone Cherry, Shinedown, and Hailstorm, overall, because we were talking about Lizzie's voice problems in Southampton last episode.
Can I just say, I want to clarify off of last episode, I am a massive fan of Hailstorm. Just because I said she didn't sound great during that one show, it was because she was ill. Like, all the other times I've seen them, I adore them. I cannot...
But all are reliable. All three bands are reliable.
Yeah.
Shinedown and Hailstorm are both playing at Download. Both, I'm sure, will absolutely smash it.
Yeah.
Blackstone Cherry play Download most years. We will see later. And... So, yeah, shall we move on to our next topic, Mr. Matt Mills?
Shall we move on to Biffy Clyro?
Yes. We weren't planning on doing this until last episode when they got mentioned, and we thought... You've got a couple of people who, well, as far as I'm aware, really like them, and one person who doesn't. What a great topic.
But yeah, this is going to be brilliant to argue about. So do you guys want to defend Biffy Clyro before I go on my tirade?
Well, I think it's better we know what you're about to hit us with, then we can prepare our argument.
Right, okay. I don't have much to base it upon because I don't really care.
Okay.
But I went to Download in 2012.
I was also there.
Yes. So you would know that they were the main supporting act for Metallica.
Yes, and
on the
since then, Biffy have got bigger and would now headline the festival.
Probably yes, but I don't think they should. They were not they're not heavy metal. First of all, that's going to sound very elitist of me.
No, it's fine, but a download it's not just heavy metal. It's
Yeah.
the spectrum of rock or hard rock and heavy metal.
The things
They
are,
book
I
status
wouldn't,
quo.
I wouldn't mind, except for the fact that on that Saturday, like every other act was very firmly rooted in heavy metal.
Oh no, but so you had a couple of novelty acts. You had Tenacious D and Steel Panther. They're joke bands.
They're still part of the heavy metal subculture, though. Even
Just because they have a song called The Metal.
no, not necessarily. but the people that follow Tenacious D and Steel Panther are the same people that follow
Dio.
Metallica, Sabbath, Dio,
Yeah.
and all that.
No, I understand.
Even Black Veil Brides have roots. No, listen, hear me out.
Yeah.
Black Veil Brides, we may not like them, but they have roots in Motley Crue,
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like that glam sound.
Yeah.
So there's still metal there. Biffy Clyro was the only act of that day on the main stage that was not firmly rooted in metal. They felt so
Have
out
you
of
heard
place.
their earlier records? They're pretty heavy. They
no,
might
I
not be
haven't.
metal, but
I'm only judging on that one live performance that they gave, and this is sort of the second point. Once we get past like the genre elitism that I'm displaying right now, the actual show was absolute bollocks. Mr. DuPont, you may disagree, but I thought they were absolute shit. They did not interact with the crowd once. Weren't even looking at the crowd. Lead singer was sort of
he's
looking...
a shy. He can be a very shy front man.
He was looking sort of like diagonally. It's like he wasn't looking sort of straight out. He was looking.
He's always done that.
He was looking. He didn't interact with the crowd at all. Didn't engage with the crowd. Even between songs, didn't say, "Hey, how's it going? Are you looking forward to Metallica next?" No, he was like, "Well, I finished this song."
No,
Let's
he
go on
did.
to the
He
next."
did mention Metallica just before they played Many of Horror. He said he went and saw Metallica when he was a kid. It changed his life. He said that just before Many of Horror.
Okay, he interacted with the crowd one time. That is. I thought they were the least charismatic, least entertaining, most by the book live performance I've ever seen in my life, and I cannot stand
If
them.
I may interject.
You may carry on.
How is that even worthy of criticism? Because, well, look, he is a shy man, and believe me, even Scotsmen can be shy. I should know I am one, and I suffer from anxiety.
If you're a rock frontman, I get stage fright is. As a stand-up comedian, I get it, and I'm performing to like 30 people a night. But if you're a rock frontman, you need to not only play music, but you need to interact and engage with a crowd.
Well, yeah,
and
but
he did not do that. He played a song, finished the song, played another song.
But you say by the book, that is what you just said he needs to be, is by the book. Rock isn't about going by the book. It's about doing what you feel best about doing yourself as an individual. It's got nothing to do with a set routine that you have to do. I mean, think about it. Angus Young wearing a school uniform and he's meant to be rebel. In some ways that may seem like a complete oxymoron. In other ways it might seem like, the ultimate way of giving the finger to the establishment that make you wear weird caps along with a blazer and a pair of shorts. But regardless, there is no such thing as by the book in rock and roll. Rock music is about an individual going up there and just being himself. And even if he's shy, he's still doing it. He's presenting himself to the world. And Download is a rock festival. Biffy have a place there. And if I went there, I wouldn't have felt that about the band. I wouldn't care either way. They have a decent set list, and they are a band that do what they do. I just seriously don't see the relevance for saying by the book, either as a negative thing or a positive thing, because in rock terms, it doesn't exist.
I'm glad you don't see the relevance, because this is the irrelevant podcast, so it fits.
RockCast.
Second week in a row! Son of a bitch!
That's fine, man. Do you wanna...
Matanza is correct, therefore.
No.
it's fine. Carry on, man. Carry on.
Refuse.
Carry on.
I refuse to cave in on
No,
this
have
debate.
you got any more topics? Because I know you mentioned those two. Is there anything more you want to add about Biffy Clyro and why you don't like them?
It was purely... I was a fan going into like that show.
So there is good parts about the band. You like their music.
I can't even remember. I can't remember any of their stuff because I.
Yeah, you've gone off them since that show.
Yeah.
That can happen. You can go see a band and then be shit or think they're
Which
shit.
is kind of why I want to see Blackstone Cherry live before I get too much of an impression from their albums by themselves. I just want to see. I want to see more of the band's, presence out there, but I'm not going to judge them by it. I'm just going to say, well, yeah,
I think
I
for
want to see that persona.
I think for people to really appreciate like the argument I'm trying to get across, we were talking about Shinedown a moment ago.
He's a great frontman.
Yeah, they're often criticised though because they take too long in between songs.
And he talks a lot.
He tells a lot of sentimental stories. Like, because I saw him in Cardiff in 2013. And he took a good 5 minutes. He was talking about an interview he did.
Yeah.
And apparently an interviewer asked him, "How does it feel to play Cardiff for the first time?" And he went, "Actually, we played here 2 years ago, exactly to the day."
Yeah, and that's a bit embarrassing for the guy interviewing him.
Things people criticised it because it was like, oh, he's taking too long, he's being too wordy, blah 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 blah. And I get how people can see that. I didn't mind it, but I can get how people can see it's a problem. Biffy Clyro were the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They were not. I don't think they worked the crowd. And rock music is a crowd-orientated genre. You need to get the crowd pumped. You need to get the crowd.
I know what you mean. I was there as well.
I'm in two minds about that statement because, rock is a very individualistic genre where everyone's got space because it's a spectrum and. Spectrum is not a set amount of ideals as opposed to another. It's multiple different things that are complicated.
Yeah.
So, in a way, you're right. Getting a crowd working, it's kind of essential, but you don't need to do it in that textbook manner of fashion.
If they're live and they don't get the crowd works, I'm like, I could be sat at home right now listening to the album and enjoying the same experience.
You could say a band like Opeth don't get the crowd going. When I saw Opeth at Sonosphere, the music's good. It was just I don't know. It just was what it was.
First of all, they at least bloody talk to the crowd more than once.
Okay.
Second of all, I think where they're Swedish, at least this is what I've seen from Michael Okerfeldt in interviews and stuff. He doesn't seem that confident of an English linguist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's why.
Got you. By the way, can I say my point now about Biffy?
Go for it, man. Sorry.
That was the first time you saw Biffy, the only time.
That's the only time.
And probably the last time.
Yeah, yes.
Right, the first time I saw Biffy Clyro was 2011 Sonosphere.
Mm-hmm.
No one wanted them there, mostly. There was a lot of Biffy negativity around camp, a lot of Biffy bashing, if you will.
Yeah, Biffy bashing.
Yes. And that day, they opened with The Captain. And, okay, in fairness, they got put on a day which wasn't very heavy. They had Weezer on before them. You had the Mars Volta, You Me at 6, all-time low. It was basically the weird day. We called it, around our camp, it was the weird day. Because the day before
at least that's better than being the only non-metal band in an all-metal day at Download.
Yeah, I agree. I, however, that day went to a lot of the smaller stages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that day, to see the likes of Gojira and Ginger Wildheart, and etc. But one thing, going into that, though, they were totally worthy of being there, and everyone who saw them said they were brilliant, and no one said they sucked. And the people who did say they sucked didn't see them because they went and saw other music instead. Now, then that was awesome. I've always liked their music. That Download 2012 show, I agree, they didn't really interact with the audience. It might have been because, like you said, it was such a heavy metal day, they might not have felt comfortable. However, close your eyes, the music sounded great. The stage production was pretty cool. It looked like a headliner was playing. The tunes, the set list that day was awesome. They played most of their hits. The crowd sang along, half of them, but there wasn't... Usually when Biffy played, there's a bit of bouncing, sometimes the odd mosh pit. There wasn't any of that. No.
The things like because I was... sort of front middle of the crowd at that point.
Yeah.
I'd been slowly working my way forward throughout the day to get to Metallica.
Yeah. And you could have seen Corey Taylor at that time because he clashed with them. Corey Taylor had an acoustic set, didn't he?
I wish I did in hindsight.
Yeah.
But Biffy,
damn you, Clashes.
I know. Damn you, Biffy Clyro. Why couldn't they have swapped? Why couldn't Corey Taylor just been on the main stage?
Can I tell you this, right? That is true. I've seen Biffy Clyro 4 times, and that was the worst I'd seen them.
Yeah.
But... nonetheless, though, I went to the Isle of Wight Festival 2 weeks later, and they were on just before Pearl Jam, and they gave Pearl Jam a run for their money. And Pearl Jam with Vedder are incredible band.
Maybe I need to give them a second chance.
Yeah.
Maybe you really do.
But the thing
maybe
is,
I will one day.
or
but I probably won't.
maybe once they have a new album out, you hear it. But the opposites. Let's just say this: Biffy Clyro have 6 studio albums, and I love all of them. They went from being this weird, screamy, not really identity garagey kind of rock band, and they then changed. Their like mainstream start really started properly with the Puzzle album. That got them more popular. And I know you could say, why did they change? But I feel like they took what they had as far as it could, whilst knowing that it wasn't. You could say it might have been we want to get bigger or whatever, because there's no way I'm going to compare them with Kings of Leon. I fucking hate Kings of Leon because they did that whole shift in trans. To me, Kings of Leon are Adele if Adele was a rock band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a compliment more than anything.
No, I'm not into Adele or Kings of Leon, so
Give me a high five for that.
Matanz is hung in for the high five.
No. Both are talented, just not my cup of tea. Kings of Leon were good back in like 2004, but by the time 2008 to now comes along, not my thing. It's just my opinion.
People have stopped listening now because I have bashed Biffy Clyro. We've lost 100% of our viewership.
No, it's fine. But I think, do you know why I love Biffy? They are the underdog. They have always been the underdog.
Exactly.
And like Rocky Balboa, they always burst through. And they're not sellouts. They're not... Okay, they did... Their album, Only Revolutions, is basically like a greatest hits album because there's so many tunes on it. I'll tell you what I would advise you to watch, Matt. If you go on YouTube, I know it's not being there, but look up The Captain live from Wembley if you get the chance. And you may slightly have your opinion change, but it's up to you. But to me... They are, and their Reading Festival 2013, it was 2013, headline performance. I saw it on TV and it was magical. And according to Bees, who's, one of the faces of hard rock and heavy metal journalism here in the UK, he said it was one of the best festival headline performances he'd ever seen. And he very much loves what you love and what we love. That's just his opinion. But I find that Biffy are a band that just do what they do. They're a free piece. They're very working class. They're very garagey kind of rock. You can tell that it's free, basically like 2 brothers and like their mate's band. And I feel like they just do what they do. Simon Neil is overall a relatively shy guy. There are times when he plays where he doesn't look at the crowd, but that's just him expressing himself in the way he does it. I can understand that at Download on a day when there is so much. Let me hear you say yeah, like James Hetfield with his "Ooh, Metallica family" and stuff like that. When there is all that going on, I can understand Biffy being a bit strange. However, I do know people who saw Biffy Clyro who were impressed. There was a bit of Biffy bashing in that Download crowd. I was stood with people who were saying this is shit, boring. I heard a lot of that. But I reckon if Biffy were to come back and headline Download, could you see that happening? Because I could.
No, I think what I think would have saved it. Let's do a hypothetical situation. Say you have Biffy Clyro at Download, and they're going to play on the Saturday. If I was given that to work with as like an organizer,
if you worked for Live Nation,
if I worked for Live Nation and I had to organize where Biffy Clyro would be, I would have them first.
So main stage headliner.
Main stage. I have them on the main stage. I'll have them be the first act of the day on the main stage.
That's not realistic.
No, listen to me. I would have them at like 11 o'clock in the morning on the main stage, because then they don't have to engage. They don't have to engage with the audience because everyone's hungover from the Prodigy.
Yeah.
So no one cares.
No.
If I may offer my opinion, if I ended up going there on that day, I would have been thankful for Biffy Clyro if it was such a metal-heavy day at an all-inclusive rock festival. And I would have been shouting out to the crowd in about as great a Scottish accent as I can muster. Finally, laddies and lasses, we have a fucking piece of diversity in here! Because if there's anything I hate, it's the idea of feeling completely out of place at a festival that is meant to be all-inclusive. So that was unfortunate for Biffy on that day. I'm kind of glad I wouldn't have been there back then, because I would have probably been against all the crowd that had that worldview, that it was such a metal-heavy day and Biffy should have done more for it, because, well, no. They have their set, they know how to do it, they might not have even been in their best of comfort zones. Simon Neil isn't exactly the boldest guy out there in interviews, and Yeah.
He's a very humble human being, and he's a very nice person.
Yeah, he is a...
But so's Bruce Dickinson, but Bruce Dickinson can engage a crowd.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a different situation. But look, it's not actually fair when you have to put limits like that on an all-inclusive festival, saying that because, there are more of other people there, doing stuff that gets a crowd working, particularly the way how James Hetfield does it, that Biffy have to try and live up to their standards. If it's an all-inclusive festival dedicated to the idea that rock is a spectrum, let them be who they are.
Maybe that's why they were main headliners, so everyone could go and have a piss before Metallica started.
Some people actually went and saw Killswitch Engage on the second stage, if you remember.
Yeah.
They were on, there was an hour gap.
Yeah.
And Skindred also clashed with Biffy. So quite a few of my camp went to Skindred. But anyway, you guys happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to apologise to any and all Biffy Clyro fans listening. I'm sure they're lovely guys. I hate bitching and moaning about anything, but I just needed to get this off my chest. So
That's
thank you.
absolutely fine. But yeah,
And I will say I am happy to get that off my chest the way I did.
Cool.
and I will get
we
I'll
still-
get the next.
We
Biffy
still
album.
love each other.
We still all love and respect each other. We're gonna hug it out after the podcast ends.
No, that's
So,
totally
yeah.
fine. And also, I can in the future see Biffy Clyro headlining Download over the next 3-4 years. They will be. You've heard it from me first, guys. Anyway, moving on.
You've heard it from me first. When they headline, I'm going to burn the stage down.
Oh,
Don't you dare touch that stage.
We'll
All right,
lose,
sorry.
We'll lose you from our podcast. You'll be in prison.
Okay, DuPont, continue.
I'm going to you, man. You're the one going through this list.
Right, okay, fine. So, I tell you what, we're on the festival topic. We're talking about Download 2012. DuPont, do you have 2 pieces of festival news?
Well, it's not really. I wouldn't say it's like news that's happened over the past week, but I will say what we mentioned from last week. We spoke about Download France. We mentioned Download England in the first episode, and there has actually been no. Oh yeah, and last week we also spoke about Reading Festival and how shit it was. And this week we are going to talk about the current lineup of the Isle of Wight Festival and also Bloodstock Festival.
Yep.
Also, we are recording Sunday, we started recording this around 4 o'clock, and there is a Download Festival announcement tonight, which we will be discussing next week. There's 36 bands announced, so we'll definitely be talking about that next week.
We've just dated this episode.
Yeah. And what's absolutely brilliant is, what we've been lucky is that this is our 6th episode, and there's been no Download UK announcements during that time whatsoever. There've been a really long break, so no blooming wonder there's 36. And you never know, we might find out who's replaced Motorhead. And also Down might not be on the bill in the future.
Yeah, did you hear what Phil Anselmo said to Pepper Keenan?
Yeah, he said, "Get rid of me, fire me."
No, he didn't. No, he didn't say that.
Yeah.
He said, "Go on without me."
Yeah, which is roughly the same thing.
Well,
sort of.
Yeah.
There's room for interpretation in "Go on without me."
Yeah. No, of course. We're not gonna. We're not here to talk about Download UK, but it's just something.
We're not going to beat
time.
a dead horse with Down either. Like we've talked about Down enough last week. So
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
go and listen to last week. Why not?
I agree.
Give us money.
By the way, the Isle of Wight Festival is a festival that I've been to and never want to go back to. I enjoyed the music there. I didn't enjoy the crowd, and it's a festival.
Yeah.
Matt Mills is the same when he went on the Sunday in 2013.
I think I mentioned this last week about the script.
Yeah, you did. That's it. However, every year they get good bands. This year they have, regardless of what you think, I think we've all agreed here on this year's lineup, and I'm going to mention bands we like. These bands could be at other UK festivals or festivals in general, like around Europe. In the UK, Isle of Wight, you've got Queen and Adam Lambert, you've got Adamant, you've got the Buzzcocks, you've got the Damned, you've got Feeder, you've got Iggy Pop, you've got 6am.
That is a good lineup.
That is a brilliant lineup.
Yeah,
mate.
that is just a small part of. I'm not going to mention the rubbish that is there, the stuff that I'm not into.
Yeah.
Like, they've actually got Busted there, and regardless of whether you like Busted or not, that's still a big selling point to some people. The other headliner at the moment, because obviously Queen and Adam Lambert are a headliner, the other headliner is a co-headline between Stereophonics and Faithless. Neither are big enough to headline the festival on their own, so it's a co-headline.
Yep.
A mixture of dance and rock music.
Very quickly, you say Busted have more or less got back together for this, right?
Yes. Well, not for this festival, but they're doing an arena tour. And
Is it the full original trio,
Yes,
or
full
has
original.
Charlie has actually still gone by his word to say he never wants to go back to that?
full original trio with Charlie.
Really?
No band has
That's
ever said
impressive.
we need to reunite in time for the Isle of Wight festival.
No, they didn't.
No band's ever said that.
Well,
No.
okay, basically, me being a proud Hampshire man, I will say I am keen to at least go to Inniswith for the festival once. Inniswith is actually its original name, the Isle of Wight. And, yeah, I'm keen just to see what's there, because, if anything, I'd like to get a t-shirt, but if the lineup really is as bad as people do traditionally say it, I think I'm more than happy just going there to see the best bands they have available, or the best acts, like Iggy and The Damned, and any of the ones that you've mentioned, Mr. DuPont. But I'd rather, if anything, I might as well just go there for a couple of weeks on holiday, because I only ever had 2 opportunities to go there. One time it was a camping holiday, which I plain refused to go to. The other was the festival, which my mum didn't allow me to get tickets for in the end, due to the fact that I ended up insulting the people from my own generation in her eyes. It's a long, complicated topic. I'll go into that some other time, but yeah. I'm keen to go just to say, you know, I'm a Hampshire man that actually has been. That's one festival that is on my doorstep across the Solent. I don't want to have to go all my life without saying I've been at least once. Yeah, it will just be something that I'm keen to get off my bucket list.
Of course, and as we've both been, it'd be interesting to get your take on the festival
Yeah.
and the atmosphere. For me, the most surprising booking on here, like Iggy Pop, I'm gutted he's not a download. It's only because Iggy Pop is so iconic and he's so cool.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever played at Download. And Isle of Wight, by the way, Isle of Wight UK every year clashes with Download Festival.
Yeah.
It's the same weekend. The only year it didn't was 2012, but that's because Isle of Wight got moved to Glastonbury weekend because the Olympics happened. Because Glastonbury got cancelled. But yeah, with
That must have been disastrous for Isle of Wight to compete with Glastonbury.
No, they didn't compete because Glastonbury wasn't happening.
Oh yeah, okay.
Glastonbury was cancelled because of the Olympics, and so they moved Isle of Wight to Glastonbury weekend. Download Festival sold out. Isle of Wight Festival sold out. Reading also sold out. Basically, every big festival sold out that year because Glastonbury didn't happen. And it was also a very strong year for festival lineups in general. Yeah. For me, the most surprising booking on here, which I'm gutted isn't at Download, 6 a.m. is Nicky Sixx's side project from Motley Crue.
Well, it'll be his main project now that Motley Crue's breaking up.
For sure. And they've also got DJ Aspirin and James Michaels, I think.
Who's that? DJ Aspirin?
Yeah, 6 a.m. stands for 6 Nicky Sixx. AM is Michaels and Asper.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And so I don't think, as far as I'm aware, they've ever played at Download. So to play at the Isle of Wight when no one there's going to give a shit about them, it's true that all the rockers and metalheads at Download would love these bands there because they appreciate it. At the Isle of Wight festival, there might be the odd dad there who remembers them from his youth, but overall, usually the people who go to the Isle of Wight crowd.
Things like Isle of Wight is the Radio 1. It's the Radio 1 of festivals. It's
that Glastonbury and Reading. Like, parts of them.
Glastonbury is actually slowly going downhill from what I've seen in recent years. Like, they're letting it become more mainstream in terms of chart music than it has to be. And I am tempted just to say no to anybody who ever offers me a trip to Glastonbury because I wouldn't be able to take it seriously anymore.
If anyone offers me a trip for Glastonbury, I'd be all over that. I don't care how crap the lineup is.
Yeah, we'll talk about Glastonbury lineup later.
Glastonbury may be one of the biggest festivals on the planet, but I literally do not give a flying fuck about it. I don't care how big the festival is. The way how it's going slowly downhill in recent years, and even had a few mainstream artists trying to pay tribute by playing classic rock songs and murdering them, I will be like, no. I will live a very, very happy and fulfilled life without going to that festival, regardless of its legacy.
I think we could talk about this in another week. Surely we could talk about this in another week.
Glastonbury. We'll do it once they announce bands.
We'll do a festival versus festival specification.
Yeah,
we should have a festival tournament. Like they work up to our favourite festival.
No, totally. Yeah. We will talk about Glastonbury once they've confirmed bands, which so far for 2016 they have not got one band. There is very strong rumours that ZZ Top are there because ZZ Top Me and Matt are going to see ZZ Top in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And
Matanza, that is.
Yeah, yes. I'm not going up to Birmingham.
Matanza, Matt with a hat, Matanza. Yeah, we're going to Birmingham to see ZZ Top, and we thought, why randoms doing a one-off show like in June in Birmingham? And then you're thinking, well, surely they might be booked for download tonight. It's unlikely, I think. However,
I think it could be feasible.
No, it could, but it's more closer to the Glastonbury date. And also, them being the Sunday, they won't headline, but them being ZZ Top being the Sunday, like they've always got a legend on the Sunday. Like they had Lionel Richie one year, and they had the likes of Status Quo and even Neil Diamond, and Matt's just having a sneeze. Just to clarify,
Matanza's ill.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I've just got slight sniffles.
He's suffering from the bubonic plague. He's going to be dead next week. It's going to be just me and Mr. DuPont. So.
I just have the sniffles, people. Don't worry.
That's how it starts.
Yes.
Next week you're in A&E.
By the way,
am I singing Ring a Ring a Rosies anytime soon, William?
I beg your pardon?
William. It happened in Shakespeare's time.
Okay. It's fine. Now moving on to our next one. I think your Bloodstock. Are you Matt Mills? Are you planning on going?
This is a massive if. I might be getting a press pass for Bloodstock. My editor's on about it, but I don't know. Bless you. I don't know how written in stone. Oh. I took you serious for about half a second there.
Okay.
No, I mean I actually bit my lip.
Oh, okay. I thought you sneezed
nosebleed.
blood.
No nosebleed. Anyway, carrying on.
No.
Sorry. Yes, Bloodstock. I might have a press pass if it. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say. Slayer's headlining the Sunday.
Yep. Anthrax subbing.
Mastodon the Saturday.
Yes, with Gojira subbing.
And your best friend's Twisted Sister on the Friday.
Yes, with Behemoth, Venom. Yep. That'll be awesome. Venom are playing third from top on the Friday. Yep. You've also got Stuck Mojo. Mm-hmm. We were talking about the Saturday. It's Mastodon, Gojira just below them, Paradise Lost, and Fear Factory also on that day. So that's pretty good. I've seen 3 of them. I've seen Mastodon a couple of times. I've seen Gojira. I've seen Fear Factory. I've seen Fear Factory twice because I saw them at Download 2012 and they're the cancellations, but we'll talk about that because we've already spoke about Download 2012 with Biffy and stuff. Paradise Lost are a band I've had chances to see but never have, so if I decide to go...
What specific genre?
Paradise Lost are more...
Death metal crossed with doom metal, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
And what country they're from? I think they're Swedish, aren't they?
Fear Factory are industrial metal mixed with death metal, I guess.
Okay. By the way, apologies about that ring that just happened. We'll try and make sure that for the next episode that's not turned off. But we're going to carry on in the meantime.
Mr. DuPont's social life is getting in the way of this podcast. It's typical.
And our equipment, unfortunately, has to tell us every insignificant detail.
Yeah, but anyway, carrying on. We've also, on the Sunday, you've got Slayer, Anthrax, some band called
Symphony X?
Yeah, Symphony X.
That's the one. I love Symphony X.
Yep, Dragon Force and Satyricon.
Oh, yes.
So essentially for a smaller festival...
Sunday's going to be good for me.
Yeah, what is it, 10,000 people? 15,000?
What, for Bloodstock?
Yeah, the crowd.
That sounds about right.
By the way, I've never been to Bloodstock.
Nor have I. I'm hoping this year's going to be the first.
Make that a free piece.
Yes, okay. Yeah, the 3 of us do a podcast. Okay, it is a little bit... I don't know. I do feel a little bit embarrassed that we've got a trio here. None of us have ever been to Bloodstock. However, it's something that in the future we can hopefully tick off our list. We've been to lots of other things. But
give me 6 months. That's going to change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Come August.
I've had chances to go. It's just
that puts me in line of a good idea for a theme we can do as a free piece.
Yes,
we can each agree to take a trip. Out, all of us seeing different festivals. And we all meet up, say, in one neutral festival that we all agree to go to, so we can share the final experience and then talk about other stuff that we all mutually agree on.
Let's meet at Reading because we all hate it.
Yes. By the way, one thing that we need... I've just thought of something that we hadn't actually planned, but the 3 of us are all going to a gig together soon. All 3 of us are going, because we've all booked it, on the Monday the 29th.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last week.
Of February. Yeah, but we've actually got tickets now, so the 3 of us are actually going to a gig together.
Sabaton, Ailstorm and Bloodbound at Southampton Guildhall.
Which is going to be awesome.
It's going to be amazing. I'm interviewing Joachim Bloden before the gig starts.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to that. I am going to be such a fanboy.
Yeah, it's going to be a good night. Put it that way.
He's going to expect me to be asking questions like, how was the recording of your new album? Is there anything you want to promote? I'm going to be like, oh, let me touch your hair.
That's fine. But yeah, with
Calm down, Mill.
Yes. So yeah, with Bloodstock, you think it's great. I think it's great. What do you think, Matt? Matt with a hat, Matanza. What I just spoke about. What do you think of these bands on here? Are you impressed with that lineup?
Yeah, as far as a lineup can go, consisting of that
Smaller
sort of thing.
festival.
Smaller festival, but with a lot of big bands. I would say it does its job pretty nicely.
And it is a metal festival.
Yeah, and it is a metal fest, so I think, yeah, it is actually a fest that is going to go some places if they carry on this way and then learn how to improve.
Bloodstock has been a force to be reckoned with over the past decade or so.
I've heard people that have said like Bloodstock outdoes Download.
Yes, and also Bloodstock is always going to happen, and Sonosphere isn't. So you've got to give it its due.
Bloodstock is like Old Faithful, and
Bloodstock is old reliable, and it's also underdog as well in a way.
Yeah,
you know, it's one of it. Just okay. I've never been, but from what I've seen on TV and from what I've heard, I do want to go. And with Twisted Sister there this year, there's a good chance. You know, I don't know. I don't think day tickets are on sale yet, but I might even go for the whole thing. It depends on finances. It depends on whether, like I said, we've already discussed this before, but you know, your summer depends on plans. You know, I don't know if I'm going on holiday yet, and also if Guns N' Roses do confirm a UK show, that takes priority for me.
You're on about the Irish trip that you're on about.
Oh no, that is unfortunately no longer happening because my friends can't get time off. But anyway, that is social life. We need to stick to this. Okay, so Bloodstock, all good.
Heavy metal isn't about friends. Yes. What are you doing?
Yeah. No, of course it is. But anyway, okay, so that is us talking about 2 festivals. Next week we'll talk about 2 more. We don't know what they are yet. No, we will be talking about Download as we said.
Yep.
And we'll also try and talk about there's another festival. Mention the announcement for Download France quickly while you've got the chance.
There's not much of an announcement. They've confirmed the actual lineup. They've confirmed who's going on when. They've announced a few more bands. And from the looks of it so far, it looks like Korn are either going to be headlining the Saturday or being the main support for the Saturday.
Okay.
That's what it looks like now.
Okay, got you. And excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, I'm only going on the Friday, like I said last week.
Okay.
That's oh god, I can't remember who the hell's going to be there. I know Maiden's headlining on the Friday, but I've completely forgotten everything else.
Yeah, that's all right, man.
I'm doing a really terrible job at hosting right now.
No, it's fine. At least you're saying. Oh yeah, another thing. It's good to make this clear. We now have a Facebook page, and my friend Carl Buxton, he listened to our first episode. He said he enjoyed it, but he said a couple of mistakes we made regarding Motorhead and Saxon.
Yeah.
By the way,
shout out to Carl. We love you.
By the way, he is absolutely spot on. We will make the odd mistakes. That was our first episode. It's important to know most of the time we are talking facts.
Yeah.
But that was bad on our part because those things weren't.
In fairness, I've probably made 15 mistakes in the past 50 minutes. So
no, it's all right. So, but we do like our listeners who do think that we are making a mistake, like a factual mistake of what we're saying, and feel free to let us know.
Do correct us. Our word is not law. By no means.
That's it.
If anything, our word is law, as in LORE.
Totally. And also, my friend Craig thought
that was a very good pun there, Matanza. That's going to go underappreciated. You get a fist bump for that one. Carry on, DuPont.
That's all right. My friend Craig is a massive Darkness fan, and when I reviewed their gig at Southampton Guildhall, he says I was a bit harsh on them for not playing more material of their latest album when I wanted to hit Open Fire, but apparently they didn't play it because of the Paris attacks, which is something I didn't know about at the time. You make a very good point, Craig, and I do agree with you mostly. However, that doesn't stop the whole permission to land thing, playing too much from it on this tour. But we do appreciate the feedback. We are very thankful that you guys are listening to us. It's good to give up your time and couple of hours of your time or whatever listening to us. We do love the feedback. We've had lots of lovely comments so far. We've also, so far, the negative stuff that we've heard has mostly been us being corrected or disagreements, but the respect is there. And I've been told that our podcast is a good listen, which makes us feel like we're doing our job right and we'll carry on doing it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right, shall we move on?
Yes.
Let's talk about Maurice White from Earth, Wind and Fire.
Okay. Yeah, it's sad. My parents were big Earth, Wind... Well, actually, I shouldn't say big because they never saw them, but my parents were Earth, Wind and Fire fans from the 70s. He died... This is me bad again from me not doing my research. He died... I'm not sure what age he was.
74.
74, thank you.
You were the one that actually posted his age in the tribute thing. You said...
That's just me forgetting.
So yeah.
There's been so many deaths lately that I just can't remember their ages all the time.
Yeah.
But Earth, Wind and Fire had some absolute tunes from back in the 70s. They were part of the scene, like partly Motown and dance music, a bit like Kool and the Gang. And okay, it might not be part of the rock and metal spectrum, but they were... Okay, in the 70s, some pop music was actually good. Like when you listen to... There was some good pop music, which is something that I don't necessarily agree with these days. But when you listen to a band like Earth, Wind and Fire and Kool and the Gang, there's some tunes in there, and they were playing instruments, and so there was artistry there. And it's sad to lose another guy who is considered a legend. He was the front man and the founding member of Earth, Wind and Fire, and it's sad news. That's my view on that. What do you guys think? Do you have any experience with Earth, Wind and Fire?
I don't have much experience with Earth, Wind and Fire, the same way I don't have much experience with Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah.
My experience is actually pretty much zilch. I literally didn't even know they were even a thing until you posted that status.
Okay.
Of course, R.I.P. to Maurice. Like I said last week, it is sad when anyone passes away. Just because I've not, heard the music of the band doesn't mean that I don't care. It's sad no matter what. So
totally.
My condolences to friends, family, and fans around the world.
Indeed, and whoa! Giant fly just landed on our table.
Massive fly just landed on our notes.
Indeed.
Permission to land. Take a flight.
Okay. So hope.
Can I just point out? We are three metalheads. We celebrate darkness and death. We're terrified when a fly lands on a piece of paper.
Hey, I was not afraid of that fly mush.
Yeah, I just kind of looked at it and I was like, that thing's big. But
it's all on him.
Yeah.
Why is it whenever we talk about someone's death, something always comes to distract us and makes us laugh?
By the way, and another thing.
May we just stick it back?
No, go for it, man. But by the way, another thing that is sad is how since episode 1 even, because on episode 1 we mentioned Scott Weiland's death without going into detail. Since episode 1 until now, there has been a music-related death. I know, and these are big names.
Yeah.
Earth, Wind and Fire are a big band from the 70s.
Of course.
And it's just, Earth, Wind and Fire weren't a band who had one hit. They had several hits, and they were multi-million selling group. And it might not be part of our world, but it is just that time. And hopefully next week we won't mention it, but we will mention it if a significant death happens in music.
Yeah, we're trying to cut down the deaths on this podcast.
Yeah, we don't particularly like the idea of having to mention death virtually every episode.
Because as you can tell, we're very bad at it.
Yeah, it is the news, though. It is relevant in time.
It's worth talking about, of course.
Yes, and moving on. So next we have an album review.
Yes. Yes, it's the new album by a band called Lost Society. They're a Finnish thrash metal band, and it's their third album. It comes out on the 12th of February. It's their third album. It's called Brain Dead. And to describe the sound of the album, it sounds like a product of 1980s first wave thrash. It sounds like a child of the same era as Testaments to the Legacy or Megadeth's Peace Sells. But the only difference being the vocals are very different. The vocals are more post-hardcore, I'd say. So if Megadeth's lead singer was the vocalist for Architects, that's probably the sound you get. Plus they're able to mix in some melodic choruses and sort of post-grunge sounding choruses as well. So, and the album definitely, it's definitely sort of thrash metal 80s sound. There's not much more to say about it, actually. It does what it says on the tin. It's much more mature than their first two albums. They show a bit more diversity. The first song is called I'm the Antidote. That's the lead single as well. It's much slower than the rest of the record. It's quite sort of Sylosis-esque. And I have seen interviews, they do say it was an intentional move to slow down, to sort of show off that the band just aren't an undisciplined gaggle of speed freaks. And they showcase that again at the end of the record, because they do a cover of a Pantera song. It's a song from power metal called PST-88. They do a cover of that, and I think any band that can take a song that isn't theirs and make it sound like it's something they've done is a talented band. And this is something that
they've
band...
got their own sound, and no one else sounds like them.
Yeah,
which is something I forgot to mention about Biffy earlier. I know we're doing an album review, but I should have mentioned that they very much have their own sound. It's them, along with Lost Society, Brain Dead.
Yeah, it's a very unique sounding band, but at the same time sounding like a child of the 80s thrash era.
Yes.
So I think that ability to mix the two is both nostalgic and, in a way,
Current.
revolutionary. Yeah.
Yes. Have you heard of a band called Revoker?
I've heard the name, I've not really listened
Right,
to
because
them much
they're a band that, like, trying not to go too off topic, but they're a band that I saw a couple of years ago at like the Joiners, Talking Heads, and the Soul Cellar as well, and they were a band that I thought very much showed 80s thrash in a more. The Welsh bands, there was elements. It was like Bullet for My Valentine meets Megadeth, Anthrax, Metallica, Bay Area thrash. It was like the two combined, and I thought these guys might be the next thing, but it never quite kicked off for them. Now, regardless of whether or not they do kick off, it's about the music and whether you like it. And like you said, these guys have been around how long?
2010, I think they formed.
So 6 years. Roughly.
Yeah, and they're all younger than 20, and this is their third album. They're all less than 20 years old, and to sound that mature at 20 is an amazing feat musically. So it's a really good album. I'd say 4 stars out of 5. I think it's the album. Sorry, the rating that I gave the album when I first recorded it.
I haven't listened to this band
it.
before. I'm interested after hearing what you've just said.
Check them out. They're supporting Exodus at the Talking Heads.
Oh, are they? Remind me of the date.
March 8th. They're supporting Exodus.
What day of the week?
I think it's a Thursday.
Let's see now. Just looking at the old diary. It's a Monday.
Oh no, it's a Tuesday. 8th of March is a Tuesday.
8th of March is a Tuesday. For now, I'll do my best to make that show. I've never seen Exodus, so that's one thing.
I've got an interview with Steve Souza.
Brilliant. And that is a gig we will be reviewing on this podcast later
Southampton
on.
Talking Heads, 8th of March. It's going to be a great show. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
But yeah, Lost Society. Going back to the Lost Society album, it's for a thrash album to be diverse is a very hard thing to do, but they do pull it off. They mess with all the tempos. They have screamed vocals. They have melodic vocals. They take a cover and they make it their own. So overall, it's a very solid album. Again, 4 stars out of 5.
Excellent. Anything more you want to add, or are you done with that?
No, I'm done with that. So we can move on to our last
and main topic.
This is sort of like the main event, saving the best to last, if you will. Because I'm sort of the new guy on this podcast. We thought you guys sort of need to get used to me a little bit. So what we're going to do, the three of us are each going to list our top 5 favourite rock and metal artists of all time.
Yes.
And the order this is going to go is like...
ascending order.
Yeah, it's going to go in ascending order. So I'm going to start with my 5th favourite. Then Matanz will say his 5th favourite. Then DuPont. Then I'll say my 4th favourite, and we'll just go around sort of in a circle like that.
Or a triangle.
Yeah.
We are a corner.
We are the triumvirate.
Yep. I failed A-level maths, don't give me that. But
no, actually, that was not maths. That was just history. That was politics.
He's trying to make you look stupid here, man.
I am not trying to make him look stupid. I just know my thing about Roman history.
If you are or not, you are succeeding.
And that gets me triple the points.
Yeah. Again, I failed maths. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So did I.
Right, okay. I'm going to start out. I'll list my 5th favourite band of all time.
Tell me.
I gave the game away by saying band. It's Trivium.
Trivium.
The metalcore masters turned into thrash metal heroes, turned into Ronnie James Dio wannabes that are Trivium. I think the reason I love them so much, I brought this up with Lost Society, but the reason I love them so much is their diversity. They started out 2003, 2005, a part of like the metalcore subgenre. They were part of the same movement as Killswitch Engage,
Bullet and Avenged,
Bullet for My Valentine, and early Avenged Sevenfold. To this day, they're labelled rather as a metalcore band. But since 2006, they've gone out of their way to
the Crusade album.
The Crusade came out, which was straightforward heavy metal. That was a little bit progressive. Shogun came out. My favourite album of theirs. Yeah,
a lot of Trivium fans' favourite album.
I call it a thrash metal album with moments of melodic metal and moments of metalcore. But I'd say overall that's a thrash album. In Waves is a metalcore album.
Love In Waves.
In Waves is
In
great.
Waves has really grabbed my attention back into Trivium.
Then Vengeance Falls came out, and that was probably a straightforward metal album with a bit of screaming. Now
I wasn't a huge fan of that album.
I loved Vengeance Falls.
Yeah.
I love Silence in the Snow, their new album, came out last year.
Yes.
And as I said a moment ago, it sounds very 80s. It's very... Not in the same way as Lost Society sounds 80s, though. It's 80s melodic metal. It sounds like Dio. It
And
sounds
Maiden.
like Heaven and Hell.
Yeah.
It sounds like Iron Maiden. So it's another thing that they can add to their repertoire.
Yeah.
They've shown such
So it
diversity.
would you say it sounds slightly like power metal?
I'd say, especially the title track, the Silence in the Snow track is definitely power metal.
Okay.
I've seen many reviews that call it power metal. But yeah, I think being able to have that diversity, especially when you're so young, so they've only been going for 10 years. They've been going for 10 years and every album is different. So I could talk about Trivium all day. I'm going to stop myself now, but they are my fifth favourite band.
Another thing we're going to mention, by the way, is even though we're giving our top fives of all time and giving reasons, we are going to include discussions and agree or disagree or even make this conversation amongst us, because that's what we do on this podcast. I like Trivium overall, but for me, they've been quite inconsistent with records. For me, their debut album, Ascendancy, is phenomenal.
Ascendancy wasn't their debut. It was,
sorry. I've made another mistake.
See, now I'm making you look stupid. It's
Yes.
a circle.
Yes.
You have to make Matanza look stupid now.
Yes, I know.
And
Good luck trying.
I always think of it as their
cycle
debut.
is complete.
I always think of it as their debut. It's their second album.
It's their major record label debut.
Okay.
So I can see where you're coming from. But
Yeah. So
not many people really acknowledge Ember to Inferno. Like, they never play it live.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, so it's sort of the weird sort of mutant offspring.
So it's like a demo, sort of.
Kind of, I
EP?
guess. No, it's long enough to be a full-length album.
Right, got
I'd
you.
call it a full-length
Got
album.
you.
It is their debut.
It's only because for
Carry
me,
on, make your point.
when Ascendancy came out, they were like, I'm not sure if you heard about the legacy or the history of the Download Festival 2005, first on the main stage.
Yeah.
Where apparently they were phenomenal and got a huge crowd, and people were like,
oh
my god.
They've talked about it in interviews before, and they've said how the crowd's coming was like that scene in Braveheart where they all come over the hill.
Yes, to see Trivium.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen.
Which scene?
Where they all come over the hill, and like, it's...
Wait, who?
I've not actually seen Braveheart, I'm just going from an interview.
Yeah.
Oh.
So...
If you're on about the English, that's the fake Battle of Stirling.
That might be what... I have no idea. I'm just going from what Matt Heafy said in an interview.
Yes.
I've not actually seen...
Terrible movie.
By the way, that
carry on.
doesn't happen as much anymore. What I mean is to see a band on the main stage first up, where people do run over the hill. Since I've been going to festivals, that hasn't happened. Or has like a band become the next thing. Trivium had a lot of hype. The Crusade, you could say, made them bigger, but also kind of killed them, as you already.
Crusade made them bigger in Europe.
Yes,
But
however,
they said before Germany loved that album.
yes, it's true. However, at the same time, though, they lost a lot of credibility with that album for ditching the screaming and having the anthem
Not
"We Are
even
Fire."
not even they liked the Crusade.
No, and Anthem We Are Fire has gone back into the set list in more recent years, but it was left off the set list
Becoming
for a
the
very
Dragon
long
is the
time.
best song from that album.
The Rising, I remember being a hit from that album. But anyway, all I can say is that Trivium are a great live band, I have to say. For me, I like about 4 of their albums. They are a band that will forever have a following and will always be a big band, but I can't see... Let's just say that when they first came out, there was a lot of expectation on them becoming arena-sized, and that hasn't happened. Maybe one day that may still happen, but I think it's unlikely. But regardless of what I think of the band and their music, I do overall like them. I do have time for them. I won't be going to the Portsmouth show because I have seen Trivium about 4 or 5 times already.
I'm going to that Portsmouth show.
Of course you are. You got an interview.
I've got the cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh.
I thought you might have already said it.
No, it's okay. I think I have said it actually.
I'll say it again anyway.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. You can edit this out. It's fine. Right, yeah, sorry, Matanza, what's your take on Trivium?
Trivium. Haven't really heard too much of them, but I like what I have heard.
Cool.
Okay.
Right, Matanza, you're number 5.
Okay, number 5 for me, and just a quick thing that I will add in. We will get a chance just to add in honourable mentions and a brief sentence after
but
this.
before we say our number 1s, we're each going to say honourable mentions. We won't go too far into depth.
Yeah. Judas Priest.
Good choice.
Yeah, Judas Priest, basically, the thing that really makes them stand out for me is 2 things, really. One of them you'll probably remember from what we discussed on a previous episode. They were the band that I saw literally the night before my birthday down in Pompey. And yeah, it was a great experience. It was one of the best experiences of my life. And before that, I'd always loved them because they seemed to be, in all honesty, where you've got many different definitions for the epitome of metal and, you know, everything that metal can mean in terms of its status in the world of music. This is what I would have to say. Judas Priest, musically, they are very, very talented.
Mm-hmm.
They are a band that definitely do know how to make a good stage presence with Halford's image on stage, his amazing voice, the fact he rides a motorbike, and, well, not as big as he would have probably done in the past, but yeah, Halford is also a revolutionary figure in heavy metal, being metal's first openly gay singer. Rob Halford is basically the man that actually has, I think, done more to enhance the idea of metal as being the tough guy genre, but the nice guy genre, in the sense that he is a nice guy. And in a timeline where people were still having a few issues with the idea of coming out, he did probably as much for the whole idea of coming out in the world of music that Gareth Thomas did with coming out gay in front of his Welsh teammates for rugby. And he's actually done more just to make metal see itself as that tough guy, yet nice guy image, because the metal crowd in general is quite a fun crowd, like really great to talk to. Halford and his band are incredibly talented, and they're not undermined at all by anyone who takes them seriously as a band just because of something that would have been controversial 30 plus years ago. And yeah, it's stuff that happens like this off the record that actually helps people to come onto the record and make a name for themselves. And musically, it's every bit as big for me as it is socially. So, Halford, yeah, he has done as much on the record as he has done off the record, and his band are always on top. Like, I've seen many live videos on YouTube. One live performance that actually blew me away on the night before my birthday, and yeah, Halford and his boys did such amazing things just for me to understand really what metal always had the potential to be, rather than the box that people categorize it into. So yeah, there isn't really much more I can say, but from what I have said, hope you guys can see it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think, seen Priest 3 times, brilliant all 3 times. The only thing that did irritate me was they did lie to us. They said they were going to break up and they didn't, which I thought Priest were better than that. However, I am kind of glad they're still together because we don't want Priest going away.
The only thing you hold against them is the fact that they didn't break up.
No,
which is a really
likes their fans.
It is a strange thing to take seriously at times because, yeah, I've said this about, you know, if a promise is worth breaking, break it.
Yeah, totally.
If a promise
I'd rather Judas Priest still be around.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just think, you know, farewell tour, you know, kind of thing, and
yeah.
But regardless. But what I do love about Priest, though, Painkiller album's phenomenal.
Oh, I agree. Painkiller and British Steel are my favourite Priest.
My favourite Priest song, Turbo Lover, without a shadow of a doubt.
Really?
Yeah.
That is surprising.
No, I just love the way how it is one of those things that, you know, it is almost like a hypnotic but very typical metal track. The way you hear and then, you know, you hear Halford's vocals sort of lulling you in.
Yeah.
And then when you're live, it has a bit more of a full-on effect, but when you have it on the album, you get a taste of what it could be live. And then get the right crowd in the right venue with the right amount of presence, and it will knock me about 10 feet back in the air and at least 6 feet up and over.
Yeah.
Right, DuPont, your number 5.
Okay. My number 5, and making this top 5, I have to say, is really difficult.
It was hard.
But for me, just about making my 5, because I had about 4 from my number 5s that I wanted.
Yeah.
But my number 5 overall, thinking things, my life perspective, Slipknot, they are the first heavy metal band or metal band I ever listened to as a 10-year-old. And that was around the time Iowa, because at the time I was living in Tunbridge, Kent at the time, and around that time, all the kids. This was when rock and metal was really popular, like new metal and pop punk and stuff, like skaterish pop punk. And Iowa was new, and there were kids on our street wearing Iowa hoodies with the goat on and stuff. At the moment, Left Behind was the hit on the radio. Iowa was also the #1 album in the UK at the time.
Yep.
And so they were the first metal band I ever listened to. I also include Slipknot on my list because, actually, I'll go into this a bit more in a bit, but what I love about Slipknot is the fact that growing up, I've always loved horror movies, more so when I was younger, but you basically got 9 guys who know how to communicate, who are like a brotherhood, who basically are very pissed off people, who express their anger through their music, whilst creating chaos, also with melody, with image, with their fans. They know what they are, they know what they do. There's no bullshit, it is what it is Slipknot, and a band to be that heavy, to be that commercial for that time was phenomenal, because a lot of people thought Slipknot, of course I'm going to be a fan. Because, and regardless of what even today, I've been around uni saying, I'm actually going to see Slipknot on Tuesday, I'm going to Alexandra Palace.
Yeah,
and people said to me about, I've said to a few like friends of mine, I'm going to see Slipknot, and even today, it's not 1999, it's not 2001 or 2, right? People still go, Slipknot, even now, and I'm like, yes, Slipknot are still winning. They're still that band that people think of.
It's still the band that people hate.
Yes, and also another.
That's almost like their marketing.
Yes. Also, how incredible is it for a band to be that heavy and to have that many great choruses with melody and have pop? To have that in the mainstream, to have duality.
I was gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
The fact that they are so heavy, so in your face, so kick you in the balls and leave you for
yes,
dead.
and being in a crowd is dangerous potentially.
Yeah, and yet so commercially accepted.
Yeah,
they're the heaviest band to receive commercial.
Yes, and also
interest.
they are. This is a fact. The heaviest album to ever top the UK charts.
Yes,
with Iowa.
With Iowa.
There's never been a UK #1. In fairness, there hasn't been many heavy metal bands who have had a #1 album, but the ones who've had, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Sabbath, they're not as heavy as Slipknot. Avenged Sevenfold have joined that list, but they are nowhere near as heavy as Slipknot.
Slipknot are probably the only, I guess, I'd call them an extreme metal band.
They get labelled lots of things. They get labelled new metal, they get labelled shock rock.
They're not part of the new metal movement, not at all.
They are in a way first album because Corey Taylor's do hip hop,
last
piece, and they've got a DJ as well. But overall,
sort of played that down
totally,
recently, though.
No, totally. So over the years, the first 3 albums are phenomenal. Last 2 albums, I'm hit and miss with. However, for me, they're the only band from my and they've got, and it's not just because they're a huge band, because they also, I love festivals. I absolutely love festivals. And since I've been going to festivals, Slipknot sum up the festival experience.
Yeah.
And I know, Matt, I think you said, Matt Mills, I know I think you said earlier that you haven't seen Slipknot yet, but
No, I haven't.
they're always around. They, like Metallica, in many ways, Slipknot sum up my festival experience. My first time seeing Slipknot was Summersphere 2011, and they were band of the weekend. It was emotional. I wasn't even, and also Download 2009, I wasn't there, but watching it is probably the greatest festival headline performance I've ever seen, like on a TV, like watching from the television. They were booked to headline, and they were easily the band of the weekend. I wasn't there, but 2 years later I saw them, and they were the band of the weekend then. I've seen Slipknot 4 times, coming up 5 this Tuesday, and to get 9 guys wearing masks communicate the way they do, and just everything. It's the name, it's the image, it's the music, it's the fact that people still label them as disgusting, and the fact that they've got their side projects as well. You know, they've got all of that. And for me, it's just absolute, phenomenal band. And you can only be proud of a band that from your childhood has become huge to the point of, you know, we say about the next breed, who are the next band. Slipknot were a band from our childhood who are still in many ways relevant. Bands like Limp Bizkit, and you could say in a way Disturbed, and bands from that era kind of died.
They're no longer relevant at all.
And
Slipknot is the...
Think of the influence.
Slipknot is the survivor.
Yes.
Because Slipknot adapts.
Yes, and
Slipknot, they started out as part of the new metal movement, and they did what Trivium did. They started out as that movement, but they diverted so hard. No one album is the same.
Yes.
And I know you view that as inconsistency on the part of Trivium, but I view that as a diversity and a willingness
Yeah.
and an ability to not be afraid to showcase that diversity.
Yes.
Those bleeps are really annoying me right now.
No, don't worry.
Don't even bother.
Yeah. By the way, Matt, Matanza, would you want to add anything
Yeah,
about
your take on Slipknot, mate.
Yeah, Slipknot, definitely a band that I am very, very, very still was fascinated by ever since, I first found out about them. I think the thing that really sells it to me is just that, all of the above that you've mentioned, but also the fact that, the irony factor in itself, because, I talk about this on occasion. Irony sells because you either never imagine it to be something that would happen, or you see something that you feel it should happen, but because it doesn't happen, it is therefore dubbed ironic and needs to be taken a bit of inspection towards. So the whole idea that Slipknot fit in with, the mainstream sort of stuff and still managed to get up there, like their album gets into like the top 40 albums, it's great, and I think that what it actually does show for me, because a lot of these things that I do tend to talk about show about the relevance of, say, rock and metal in various forms in today's chart zone. I think it shows there are still some acts that people really can't actually turn away from, and there's an appeal just in some sort of weird aspect, be it musically or the image, and then they find their way in there. I wish we had bands more like them, actually, just because I want to see more bands and more artists that have that, very big wow factor. They have the ability to shock people with how they still get viewed, the way they want to be seen in an age where everyone has to conform in order to get successful. Like, Slipknot are living proof that you can be as grotesque as you fucking want to be, and you can get away with murder.
Got you. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, my number 4. My number 4 is Machine Head.
Yeah.
We talked about them last week. We talked about how Rob Flynn is an amazing person. He is an even more amazing musician. The complex... I love the complexity of Machine Head, especially ever since The Blackening.
Oh, 2007 album.
Yeah. Ever since The Blackening, that they've definitely been so complex. They've evolved. Again, this is what I admire most in a band: the ability to evolve. Machine Head started out as a standard groove metal band, along with the likes of Pantera, sort of like that mid-90s heavy metal sound. They went to new metal at the end of the 90s. I wasn't a massive fan of that turn, but I still think it's good.
Supercharger album.
Supercharger and Burning Red. I wasn't a massive fan, but they get way too much flack for it, for what it is. They're still good. They're still... It's a solid album, and then after that, they moved on to sort of progressive thrash, I guess you'd call it, with The Blackening, and then more recently, the Bloodstones and Diamonds. These are all amazing records, my favourite Machine Head records. It's weird, because with most bands you say, oh yeah, it's the beginning of their career that I prefer.
Yeah, like Burn My Eyes is a classic.
Yeah, but with Machine Head, I'm one of the only bands where I'm like, no, they sound better in their later years.
Did you like Unto the Locust? Because I know that album got a lot of crit.
I loved Unto the Locust.
Yeah, a few people got a lot of criticism.
It wasn't as progressive as Blackening or Bloodstone.
Yeah. Also, Through the Ashes of Empire is also a phenomenally good album.
Yes, yeah, that's an amazing.
Yes,
Through the Ashes of Empires is a great album.
Yeah, I've seen Machine Head twice. I saw them at Download 2012 on the Friday, and I also saw them headline Portsmouth on the Bloodstones and Diamonds tour in 2014. And they were brilliant both times. And when I saw their Bloodstock set in 2012 when they headlined the Saturday, they were awesome. And believe it or not, they didn't... that gig at Download in 2012, they didn't play Davidian, which is really weird.
Davidian is a great track, but like I said, I prefer their later career.
Okay.
Songs like Halo,
yes,
like 9 minutes of in-your-face thrash, that's solo.
Yes.
I'm sure one of these weeks we're going to do favourite guitar solos of all time, but until such a point, I'm gonna call it out right now, and I'm gonna say favourite guitar solo ever: Halo, Machine Head from the Blackening. So,
Excellent.
Matanza, you got anything to add about Machine Head?
I don't really know too much about Machine Head. I've listened to a couple of their tracks, but I haven't actually gone into proper depth with them because I've just had other artists that people have recommended that I try and prioritise over them whenever. So yeah, my knowledge is kind of lapsed in that department.
Okay.
I have a lot of respect for Machine Head.
I adore them.
Yeah.
Hence why they're here. Hence why we're talking about
They're another band like Trivium that over the years have been rumoured to one day step up to the plate of first on a mainstream festival, which is unlikely going to happen. They do deserve it. I just think they're a band that, you know, this is no criticism. It's just Machine Head are a band that after the Blackening, people thought they're the next Metallica kind of thing. And in many ways, they kind of just to a generation. In the 90s, you had Machine Head, you had Pantera, you had Fear Factory. You know, I know Fear Factory were a lot more popular back then, but there was American bands in the 90s that, because obviously there was all the Seattle.
It's what they called like the new wave of American metal.
Yes.
In the mid to late 90s, you know, coined after the new wave of British metal, which happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
Ironically, though, that never actually became a thing.
Yeah, well,
it never became an officially recognised movement. Just sort of like
not as popular as the British wave. Sorry, carry on, DuPont.
No, that's cool. But yeah, Machine Head are a band that are here to stay. At the moment, they currently, I think they are still touring Bloodstones and Diamonds. They may even get confirmed for download tonight. We'll wait and see what happens with them. But anyway, that's it. So Matanza, Matthew, Fedora, you're number 4.
Okay.
Fedora 4.
Very funny.
The puns are running rife.
Yeah. And that's not even a pun because it didn't even...
Come on, Fedora.
That's not even clever. Anyway, Black Sabbath. Do I really need to go into much depth with this?
No, you don't. You're number 4, DuPont. Sorry, you go for it too.
Well, okay, I'll try and give it as best, you know, a quick summary as possible.
It's fine, dude. Don't worry about it.
Black Sabbath. Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. These guys really are the Beatles of heavy metal, and if you have any other reason to say they're not, you're not really going to get many people staring at you with a serious regard, are you? Because let's face it, Sabbath, with their first album, they definitely did do some great stuff. They ended up creating essentially music that was based on their experiences as Brummies, people in that particular industrial era in Birmingham, where everyone else was, you know, pretty much working in factories, building industry for the greater entity that were the higher-ups in the factories and Great Britain. They brought that sound of doom and gloom and misery and just the sheer tenacity, and even, you know, including certain things that fit into the blackness, the dark shade of how they really felt, that you can tell these guys are beyond the definition of influential. They are, essentially, regardless whatever people may say about other bands, they are the root of heavy metal. They gave that very typical industrial sensation, which links every heavy metal band since then to Birmingham, England. It has its own chapter, and the chapter may as well just be called Sabbath, a revolution in rock. Sabbath just did more, really, to define a genre than I think any other band or any other artist in any other genre has ever done. Would you like to challenge me?
Not at all. I've said this last week, but I'll say it again now. I prefer Sabbath's Dio years.
Yeah.
I think Heaven and Hell is their best record. I'm not a fan of Ozzy Osbourne as a vocalist. I'm not a fan of his vocals, but musically, Sabbath are amazing. I wouldn't call myself a Sabbath fan, but I respect Black Sabbath for being that precursor, what you call the root of metal.
Yeah.
I respect them for that, and now that they're on the End tour, it does sound like, you know, a way of life is coming to an end.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. DuPont?
Yeah, Black Sabbath, I remember when I was 15, I picked up the first 5 records, like on CD. My favourite album by them is their debut album,
Okay.
the one which has eight tracks on it, and it starts with the self-titled song Black Sabbath from the album Black Sabbath by the band Black Sabbath.
It's almost like Motorhead by Motorhead from the album Motorhead.
Yes,
Which
or
was
Iron
actually,
Maiden, or Iron Maiden from Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden.
Yeah, it's a very popular thing back then, but carry on.
Yeah.
The triumvirate.
Yes, and I think Sabbath I've seen 3 times since 2012. I am a fan. I'm not as big a fan as Matanza because they're not in my top 5.
Same here, by the way. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Not in my top 5.
Yeah. But nonetheless, what they've done is brilliant. I wish that Bill Ward was part of this reunion. We've actually discussed this on an earlier episode. If you want to hear what we think about that, and we do want him there, and that's it. And it's like Sabbath are going away, but Ozzy, I'm sure, will still make music, as hopefully will Tony and Geezer, and Bill Ward as well. Whether he's in the band or not looks unlikely. But anyway, can we now move on to my number 4, please?
Of course.
Yep.
Go right ahead.
My number 4 are Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Why am I surprised? Like, you love Scott Weiland.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's it. The reason why Stone Temple Pilots are in my top 5 is because I spent a few years working between college and uni, and if there's one band I've played the most, it's them. The reason what introduced me to Stone Temple Pilots, by the way, are not a band that gets shoved down your throat. They're a band that you usually need to look up, or you may have heard their songs in a video game or a film or something. 2 things made me check them out properly. One was grunge from the 90s, because even though they are the biggest band who are not from Seattle to be a grunge band, and also I love Velvet Revolver, so I decided to listen to... I've obviously listened to Guns N' Roses, but I'd never listened to STP. And what I loved about... because they had 6 albums... 4 in the 90s, 4 albums in the 90s, and each album was so different. They originally started off as a grunge band, songs like Plush, but then the next album went more artsy, sounded more... There's elements in their music of the Doors, the Beatles, like I mentioned, even like Pearl Jam and Iggy Pop. They're such a diverse band, and you think, how can that work? They must have identity crisis. Then all you need to do is press play. And for me, the 4 of them, the way they worked together and their live performances were chaotic. They were flamboyant. They're the kind of rock band you could drink champagne listening to. The way they dressed in their suits. They made fantastic music videos. And I just think when I think of Stone Temple Pilots, I just immediately think, cool. That band are cool. And if you think they're shit, you've never listened to them. That's what I think of Stone Temple Pilots. They're a band that unfortunately I never got to see. And they will still... Oh, yeah. There's one quick thing, guys. They're actually auditioning singers online from all over the world. All over the world. I would love to do it, but unfortunately I don't have a band and they want footage of you and your band. I paid tribute to Scott Weiland on Winchester's Got Talent this week, and I successfully got through. Matt, you're in the audience.
Yeah.
If you want to quickly say something very short and sweet.
Only positive feedback, please.
Or negative, whatever you want to say.
Easily the best sort of lineup that I could have expected there, and it's one of those things I wish they had more people doing on actual Britain's Got Talent, because that way I would actually watch the show.
Nice one. But anyway, guys, I've said it. I've seen Scott Weiland and the Wildabouts. I met the guy 3 months before his death, so that's why his death I was very sad about. Early December, guys. What are your take on STP?
Matanza, you go for it. I don't really have much to say about Stone Temple Pilots. I didn't listen to them too much, so I'll let Matanza take over.
I love what I have heard of Stone Temple Pilots, which is actually a bit more than Machine Head, and STP. Like Scott Weiland, I think the first time I ever heard him was actually when they did that. Remind me, it was the tsunami attacking. Remind me which country it was, and they had all those artists covering Tears of Heaven.
Oh, that charity single.
Yeah, basically they covered Eric Clapton's Tears of Heaven, and excuse me, and yeah, it was a brilliant thing to see Scott Weiland in there with Steven Tyler, Ozzy Osbourne, Kelly was there too, Elton John, Josh Groban, Andrea Bocelli, Mary J. Blige, you name them, they were there, and yeah, Scott he actually stood out very very well as just one of the better vocalists on the track. In the video, you do see him, but you don't really get much of an impression just because, well, you know, Scott is a chameleon, he blends in there. He does a lot of stuff to just try and, you know, make himself fit in with the right sort of style for the track. And, yeah, Scott Weiland, Stone Temple Pilots. My favourite song of Stone Temple Pilots is Conversations Kill. And
That's cool. That song. There's
Yeah,
on the internet. It's called that on some sites, but that song is actually from The Crow. It's called Big Empty.
yeah, Big Empty, whatever it's called, but either way. Yeah, it's a brilliant song, and it makes me feel when I'm wandering down the highway at top speed in someone else's car, I can just capture the mood of actually turning off perfectly and then rushing off down the A303, also known as the Highway to the Sun, and it makes me feel so alive when I do that. So, in recent days, like recent weeks actually, Stone Temple Pilots have actually become a bigger part of my life than I think they ever were in the past, mainly because Scott's passing away has actually just made me decide to pick up a bit more stuff and get much more into them. But also, I think that one of the things that I really am sad about, which Scott really seemed to showcase in his music, was, you know, there is diversity in his vocal range, the way how I've got a load of different interests. A lot of people, you know, say you can't fuse them all together because they just say, no, Matt, you've got to take a simple route, which is one way, or many different potential ways, but you can only pick one of them. And I'm like, if Scott can do all that stuff in his vocal range, well, I can definitely manage a lot of different projects that people are giving me a hard time for not picking out a top 2 or 3. So yeah, he is pretty much just the vocalist that represents my situation historically.
Well said.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mills, your number 3, please.
My number 3, I will bet my bursaries that none of you, nor anyone listening to this, will have heard of my number 3. They're
Tell us.
Yeah, they're a band from Boston. They have just under 7,000 followers on Facebook. Yet they are my 3rd favourite band of any and all time. That is a band called Wilderun.
How many albums do they have?
2.
2.
2 albums. So they're a very young band. They're the youngest band on this list. The only thing I can really describe them as is a mix of Inciferum and Dream Theater. So like a mix of progressive metal and folk metal, and it blends together ridiculously well, like better than you would believe. They are the most technically diverse band I think I've ever heard of. The only one that could possibly challenge them to that crown is Nea Bliviceris from Australia. But I think
Have you seen either of those bands you just mentioned?
I've not seen either of them live, no, because they're not big enough to actually tour over here.
Really?
Yeah.
So they couldn't play the Joiners?
Wilderun has never done a show outside of the US, I believe. They're based in Boston, and they've only really toured the East Coast. Nea Bliviceris, I think, they're touring. Thank you. Nea Bliviceris are touring the US right now, supporting Cradle of Filth. But I don't think they've ever come to the UK. So both of those bands I'd love to see. But yeah, Wilderun, they released their 2nd album last year. It's called Sleep at the Edge of the Earth. It was my album of the year. Very technical, very broad, very lovely to listen to. Honestly, a great record from start to finish. No weak points. One of the few times I can say this about a record, Sleep at the Edge of the Earth is the perfect album. And I honestly, I believe that and stand by that, no matter how many times I listen to it. It is a perfect record. When I ordered it from their Bandcamp, that's how small time we're talking right now, that the only way you can get their albums is through Bandcamp. I ordered it online, the physical version delivered to me from the US. It came with a letter from the lead singer, from Evan Berry, just personally thanking me for supporting the band.
That's brilliant.
That was really sweet.
You're the kind of guy they'll put in their album notes.
Yeah. Like,
honourable mentions.
I wrote him back. I wrote him back and we just started emailing. But, you're right there, mate.
Yeah, don't worry. Just a slight hiccup.
That's a very strange sounding hiccup. But regardless, we just started emailing. He was a really, really brilliant musician, but very humble about it. They need more of a fan base. So everyone listening to this, go and check out Wilderun. Listen to their albums, like them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter, do all of that stuff. Just the other day, I wrote an article for the National Student. The seven underrated bands that you need to listen to. Wilderun,
I saw that actually. Yeah.
Wilderun made the cut, and Ne Obliviceris made the cut as well, because they're both criminally underrated for how technically diverse and just amazing they are. Like I could talk about Wilderun for years. Like they are just my favourite thing in folk metal right now.
Nice one, man. I've never heard of them. As you said at the beginning, you probably haven't.
I bet none of you listening to this have ever heard of them. I would bet my bottom dollar. So go listen to them, find them, say hi to them, email them, give them your money, send them money, send them things. Yeah.
Easy.
And for that reason, are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that.
It's only because obviously neither of us have ever listened to them. We
might
can't comment.
We might as well go straight to Matanza's number 3 because I can't imagine.
Yeah, but one thing I will say, I think it's really cool that we have introduced our new member Matt Mills can talk about smaller bands to check out because obviously
that is a topic we have covered, but we obviously can go back to it on multiple occasions for the sheer range and diverse.
I'm sure there are going to be many times, especially when we're doing our lists. I'm going to come back to obscure bands that you won't have heard of. So this is an endorsement. This is an endorsement of Wilderun. I'm going to endorse other small time bands. I'm sure bands like In the Hills and bands like Dendera. I'll endorse them all.
Yes, I have a big history with Dendera, but anyway, moving on to Matanza's number 3, please.
Okay, my number 3, and I'm actually going to take a leaf out of your book with that because my number 3 on this is basically a band called Ghost of the Robot with James Masters as their lead singer.
Okay.
Now, crash course for you who do not happen to be veterans of watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. James Masters played Spike, who is one of the coolest characters ever created for TV. He's the only villain / good guy in small aspects who is just as good when he's bad. But James Masters is actually a Renaissance man by nature. He does do things in a very selective fashion just because he tends to see himself as fitting a good story rather than wanting to just go for the glory. He has a band on the side called Ghost of the Robot. What Ghost of the Robot genuinely are a band that do take a lot of influence from bands and artists like Nirvana, the Beatles, Springsteen, many great acts from just like your typical classic rock era, going all the way up to the grunge era. You name it, odds are he'll have a trace of it in there. Tom Petty, Springsteen, Bon Jovi. He's never really, I think, mentioned Jovi as an interest or a inspiration of his, but I'm guessing that he would be able to see himself fitting in there. And I have even sent a couple of messages on him to Twitter saying, maybe you should cover a couple of people that you're interested in. And I think Bowie is actually a big influence of his, so you might be able to pick that up. Yeah, but Ghost of the Robot are a very, very typical, as you'd expect with all those influences, old school, classic band that really have that nostalgia feel. And they've only got 2 albums, from what I've actually been able to see for them as a band. James has also released a couple of solo albums himself, Civilized Man and Like a Waterfall. And I would suggest you go and check them out because that's 4 albums under his own personal package, and they are great listens. Like a Waterfall is a great bluesy kind of vibe that really takes you back to the very roots of what kicked off all the bands that inspired him, and Civilized Man is where he really brings all of his interests collectively into a solo album. I'm actually a little bit embarrassed to say I can't remember Ghost of the Robot's other 2 things, but I can tell you that you'll find them pretty easy if you just type in Ghost of the Robot Wikipedia and then look on their discography. James really is just like an image of something I want to see more of. More bands, more artists, just going out there taking a bunch of inspiration from the old school stuff and not being afraid to shove it out there. Because he gets a lot of popular attention from his cult following, because being a Renaissance man, he's kind of confined to a cult status, but you'll find if you do get into him, you won't be disappointed whatsoever. James has this weird way of actually just connecting in the most unique of ways. You see it in Spike in Buffy, and then you see it in his music. He does what no one expects him to do, because you think, well, you might feel from a random perspective it's a bit dated, but no, James makes it cool and gives the same sort of feel, because he's obviously a modern guy going out there and just doing something old school. So give him a listen and make sure that you actually get the full flavour of Goes to the Robot before you comment.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah.
What was it? You played me a few of James Master's track the other day. I don't know if that was solo or whether it
That
was
was
with
Goes to the Robot.
Goes to the Robot. I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
It is music that I've heard before in a similar kind of style. The guy's definitely talented, but I'll give a full view when I hear a full album, which I've yet to do.
Please do.
I don't have much to add. I've never even heard of Goes to the Robot. I will check them out after this podcast.
Yeah, please do, and feel free to offer your opinion on a later date.
I will do. DuPont, number 3.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 3, and this is easily the biggest band of our number 3 collection together, is Pearl Jam. The reason why I love Pearl Jam is because, to me, out of the grunge movement, they are the most classic rock, and to me, Eddie Vedder is like the Springsteen of grunge music. And their back catalogue of albums and brilliant songs, the 3-hour live performance with setlist changes for every show, and the diverse range in rock music in Pearl Jam's music, it's what makes me love them. And for me, 10 is arguably the second greatest debut album of all time, behind Appetite for Destruction. Guns N' Roses are not in my list, but to me, Pearl Jam connects on a more level, because when I was at college, I massively became into Pearl Jam, and everyone else who loved rock wasn't really bothered. Pearl Jam are probably the biggest band in the world that a lot of people have never properly listened to, if you know what I mean.
I would agree with that 100%.
I completely agree. Yeah, I think that's a...
Yeah.
I couldn't have put that better myself. That's a really good... If I could write one sentence about Pearl Jam, it would be that: the biggest rock band you've never heard.
Yeah, same with Tool.
Yeah.
Tool are very similar to that.
Yeah. I don't know, I think Tool... I think more people have heard Tool.
Yeah, really?
I wouldn't even call myself a massive Tool fan, but I have Enema. I have the Enema CD.
Yeah.
So
there's always a big argument. Sorry, Matanza, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would sum that up pretty much the way how you two both just did. And it's weird, like, Pearl Jam, even my sister, who isn't actually that interested in rock music, she at least knows the name Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
And this is a girl that, you know, she gives the impression the only name she would have heard out of, you know, the grunge era, not counting Dave Grohl, is Kurt Cobain / Nirvana. So, yeah, Pearl Jam, like, they have a way of at least getting their name out there, so they're big enough so that people know about them.
Yes.
And if they don't know about them, it's just they've never listened
By
to
the
them.
way, I've always defended Pearl Jam. The reason being, for me, these are just a few things I'm going to add. Actually, I will say, I'll say about 10. My favourite album is probably Versus, which is their second album. When I was at college, or around that time, Backspacer came out, which is their second to last album. Their latest album, Lightning Bolt, I also love. Essentially, Pearl Jam have about, I think they've got 10, I think they've got 10 studio albums, and I love all of them. I love all of them, which some people don't, but you were saying about Trivium.
Yeah.
Like, you love all their music. There isn't an album you don't like. I'm like that with Pearl Jam. And
there's an album they have that I think is the least good.
Yes. Oh, no, we all have that.
Which for me is The Crusade.
Yes.
I'd call it good.
Yes.
But
No,
sorry, carry on.
No, it's fine.
Point.
No, I just think that you know, for me, they are easily the best band from Seattle. And people say, do you know why? People say Soundgarden. I say Soundgarden, boring live band. Pearl Jam, better songs. Next, Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains, you could arguably say, are the best studio band. But for me, because of... For me, Alice in Chains don't have enough music, and that is sad because of the passing of Lane Staley.
Alice in Chains are my favourite grunge band. They're not on my list.
No.
Because I'm not a huge grunge fan, but my favourite grunge band is Alice in Chains.
For me, and it's not just that. I will say this. It doesn't matter... It doesn't matter how big a band is for how much you love them.
Yeah.
But I will say this. For me, in my opinion, Pearl Jam piss all over Nirvana. That's my opinion.
In what regard?
And for me, they have better songs, better albums, better live band. And for me, Eddie Vedder is far more interesting than Kurt Cobain. And the fact that he's still alive. There's only 3 reasons why Nirvana have a bigger place in musical history than Pearl Jam. 3 reasons.
Is his early death one of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is one. The other 2, Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl on drums. The other 3, Pearl Jam have never had a hit as big as Smells Like Teen Spirit. That aside, that's Pearl Jam back in the day sold just as many records as Nirvana, sold just as many tickets, and that actually reminds me, another reason why I love Pearl Jam, they took Ticketmaster to court.
Of course.
They did. They took Ticketmaster to court saying you're charging our fans too much. Yes, we know we're the biggest band in America at the moment, or joint biggest band.
Yeah.
Because before Kurt's death, they were on par.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were, and anyone who argues with that is wrong.
Yeah,
Look
also,
up the
I would
fact.
actually say, I might not even be on the right basis when I'm saying this, but me being a social kind of person who takes a look at the sociology aspect of everything, having a very dysfunctional missus always helps to keep your name big. And what is Courtney Love if not a completely dysfunctional widow?
According to some conspiracy theorists, a murderer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a debate for another episode.
fine.
That is a debate for another episode, but you guys all get my point.
Yes, of
She
course.
is that 4th in a 3-way ultimatum.
Totally. By the way, bringing up Pearl Jam, they're a band that I've seen 3 times. Long may it continue. They're the best rock headliner who have never played it download. I will stand by that.
Amen.
And do you guys want to add anything about that? About Pearl Jam?
Not really. I think you said everything that needs to be said. You covered that really extensively.
Nice. Have you? Do you
As
like them?
Captain
You're a
America
fan?
says,
I'm-
all of the above.
I'm, I guess, a casual fan. I think would be the term to describe. I listened to a couple of their songs, especially when I was growing up and I was into grunge. Not so much now. I listen to heavy metal.
No, I agree. Would you like to see Pearl Jam one day?
Given the opportunity, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like grunge more as a casual fan, but
Yeah.
Pearl Jam, definitely, I would say they are better, in my honest opinion, than Nirvana for every reason that we have said under the sun, and just my own personal reason that I've got here. I never really like it when bands just get more than their fair share of attention purely for what goes on off the record. So the fact that Eddie Vedder has actually done more for his band musically just to get them up there than, circumstances in the press would have helped to elevate things up, I would say that is probably just something that is a lot more commendable artistry-wise.
Nice one. Okay, now moving on to our number 2s. Matt Mills, go ahead.
My number 2 is Sylosis.
Oh, wow. That's a band I've seen.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man. I tell you, so far, I know you haven't even got to number 1, but I think you have the whole world of music, and you've chosen bands that mean so much to you, who in 10 years might not even be around, but for you at this present moment mean something to you.
I'll wait until you hear my number 1. It's going to completely shatter. It's going to completely shatter the aesthetic that I had going on.
Now go for
My
it.
number 2 is Sylosis, purely because I think the main reason why I love Sylosis is how they came to my attention. I was in Southampton and I was wearing, for those of you who don't know, I wear denim jacket covered in patches, from Slayer to Nirvana, covered in patches, dedicated to every band you can imagine. I have 2 of them, two of these patch-filled jackets, and I was walking through Southampton, and this guy just sort of bumps me on the shoulder. Never seen this guy before in my life. He says, "You know who you'd like? You'd like a band called Sylosis." This random guy on the street.
Yeah, it was fate. It was fate.
This random guy comes up to me on the street and he says, "You love Silosis. Listen to Silosis." I thought, okay, great. The name stuck in my head because they just released Dormant Heart. This was the beginning of 2015. They just released Dormant Heart, which is my favourite of their albums. And I get back and I look at them on YouTube. It was their lead singer that came up to me and was like, "You need to listen to Silosis." So the guy who recommended Silosis to me was their lead singer. It completely blew me away.
That is a story.
Yeah, it completely blew me away.
I've seen them. I saw them open the Saturday main stage at Sonosphere in 2011, the morning after Hetfield was on that stage, and he mentioned how what a proud moment that was in his life.
Yeah. I saw them in Bournemouth. They were supported by Hang the Bastard.
I've heard of them. I Hang the Bastard.
What a heavy metal name, Hang the Bastard.
No, I agree.
But yeah, Hang the Bastard.
Feed the Rhino.
Silosis. We talk about every band I've talked about so far, other than Wilderun, has released an array of albums that sort of like span the musical spectrum. Silosis have released 4 albums. And they're all the same style. They're all in-your-face, progressive death crossed with thrash metal. They're all the same sort of style. Every album sounds like a sequel to the one before it. And the same way I admire the diversity of some bands, I admire the consistency of Silosis to have a sound that doesn't alternate too much, but still at the same time be able to make every album fresh and exciting and enjoyable to listen to. Dormant Heart was a little bit slower and a little bit more melodic in places, but still, without a doubt, the same Silosis. It wasn't overly different, and it's just a brilliant sound. You can see why they stick with it, because it's that perfect mix of LA Bay Area thrash with sort of like death metal like Carcass. It's that perfect blend, and I adore it. They're so engaging live. I think they're really enigmatic and charismatic. Even without, I criticised Biffy Clyro earlier for not engaging with the audience that much. Silosis don't either, but at the same time, Silosis just have such a presence. You have Josh Middleton just at the front of the stage holding his Les Paul guitar, just it's amazing. I can't describe how much I love that band.
Right, and that's why they're your number 2.
Yeah, so I'm going to completely gush when it gets to my number 2.
That's cool. And Matt, you heard of Silosis?
I haven't actually heard of Silosis. I feel a little bit embarrassed all of a sudden. Not only was I coughing up like crazy a couple of minutes ago, but...
I told you he's dying. He's dying.
Don't worry, I am back to normal now. Matanza is safe. But yeah, actually, no. It's like... There are so many bands that I'm just failing to make the mark on at the moment. Not because I've been too lazy, but because I just haven't even had the chance. Because I've had too many people recommending stuff, and I've actually had to put up walls between myself and other people just to get through their recommendations.
In other words, he's too lazy.
Alex, what do you have in mind? I will punch you in the face so hard it will create an explosion.
Okay.
DuPont.
That's fine. Silosis are a band that, as I mentioned before, I saw at Sonosphere. I thought they were good. One of my campmates that year was a big fan, and he was very excited, and he made sure we all got up early to see them, which is a typical thing. Silosis were actually supposed to be supporting Fear Factory and Devin Townsend, but they got replaced by Tesseract. I don't know why they ended up pulling out for some reason. But they're a band that have always been around, always had acclaim. They haven't got any bigger since that Sonosphere show, but that doesn't matter, because if you're a fan, who gives a fuck? Since I'm going to be totally honest. Since 2011, I haven't actually pressed play on any new music, which is something maybe that I should do, because I did enjoy their Sonosphere set.
Yeah, their new album I think is the best, but I know a lot of metalheads will say Monolith and Edge of the Earth from 2012 and 2011 are the 2 best albums.
Got you. And so Matanza, your number 2, please.
Okay. My number two that I'm going to be absolutely honest about is Bob Seger.
We're hitting the big guns now. Hitting the big names.
Yeah, Bob Seger. basically, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band are very much just the Midwest equivalent to what Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band are. And yeah, Bob just wrote a lot of great songs, which again, like Bruce, are all about essentially the root of what Heartland Rock is based around. It is about the struggles of, typical working blue collar types in the US and, in a way, by extension, the whole of the world. But these guys are literally just writing about their experiences back wherever they came from. And Bob has, in terms of his life off the record, he's the son of a successful car dealer who ended up leaving, and then after that, they ended up trying to work their way back up and further to the top. Off the record, it took a bit of time for him to kickstart on the record, and well, if there's a man really that can represent the idea of the American dream coming out and actually being something that is more universal than just America, Bob Seger made it that way for me, because Seger, I love his songs. Turn the Page, it got me through some really difficult times when I was listening to Live Bullet, and also other songs like Shakedown and Fire Inside in particular, The Night Moves, Old Time Rock and Roll. Like, these are all anthems that in a way speak about, I think, not just me, but in a way, some people in the rock community, definitely. And yeah, it's creating an interest that just got me interested in kind of like, I think Bob Seger was one of the artists that actually got me more interested in philosophical songwriters than I did just typical headbangers, because if music is an art form, every song should have an important message as its undercurrent, but in a world where we have too many things out there which are definitely not the case in these modern day charts, Bob Seger is still an icon for people to look up to, and for me in particular, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band took way too long to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and thankfully by 2004, after the entire state of Michigan basically threatened another civil war with Ohio, they got him in there, the way he deserves to be, for all he has contributed musically to the world.
Cool.
Well said. Yeah, I discovered Bob Seger through listening to a lot of Heartland rock music, such as Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, John Mellencamp. You could even include someone like Van Morrison in there as well. That's how I discovered him. Turn the Page I originally heard by Metallica.
Yeah, same here.
And yeah, went back to the original. Both versions are absolutely brilliant.
I prefer the Metallica version, I'm going to be brutally honest. It's not popular opinion to say I prefer a cover to the original. But
No, it's fine.
I do prefer the Metallica version of Turn the Page than the Bob Seger version, but that's because I'm a thoroughbred metalhead. My music taste, aside from Led Zeppelin, doesn't really go back further than 1974.
Oh, really? Wow. So no 60s? You're not a Dylan fan or Stones?
I'm afraid not. I try, but I always end up coming back to heavy metal. The earliest album I own
Best way
is 68, Led Zeppelin 1.
Got you.
the best way to try and see it is just try and pick out the influence in there and then see if you can go back and try and appreciate it from the same perspective as the artist in question.
Totally. Night Moves is a great car song. It's good like late night driving your car out. From Old Time Rock and Roll I first heard because Bon Jovi covered it. Mm-hmm. Bon Jovi are always one of those classic rock bands who everyone listens to at a very young age. Mm-hmm. And then it's true, there's certain bands that just grab you when you first start listening to old rock or classic rock, if you like to say. But yeah, Bob Seger's definitely an icon. He's still touring. He's obviously very old now, but we'd like to make sure he's the kind of guy who will keep touring and playing music until the day he passes, which will be very sad. Yeah. And Bob is, one of the greatest American singer-songwriters of all time. Another person I forgot to mention is John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater Revival. He's an absolute icon.
Yeah, John Fogerty.
Yeah, he's someone we need. He's someone we need to talk about in the future. Yeah, and so that's it for me. Matt, I know you mentioned the Metallica thing, but anything more you want to
add? No, I'd like to cut straight to my number one because I'm very excited to reveal my number one.
Do it.
My number one is Alter Bridge.
Oh, wow.
Now that's going to be controversial to some people.
Why?
Now, I've met some people that are savagely, down the lines of saying Alter Bridge are generic, they're boring. I don't agree with
Those
them,
people
but
can
I've
go
just...
fuck themselves.
I know.
Because-
I'm not saying that I agree with them. I completely disagree with that. But believe me when I say it, Matt, I have met more people than I want to that do hold that worldview.
I'll tell you what, if you're listening right now, you're not a fan of Alter Bridge,
Then you can take a hike.
You're banned. You're banned from the Irrelevant RockCast. If you don't like Alter Bridge, just stop listening now and never come back. This is fantastic promotion. I know.
No, just in case you're wondering, that's Matanza with me. I know you haven't gone into detail, but I've actually met more people who do like them than not. Carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not popular opinion. The majority of people I've shown Alter Bridge to are like, it's alright. It's pretty boring.
I think you need to listen to a whole album. But anyway, carry on. We're
first
not letting you
album-
talk at the moment.
The first album I ever bought, I mentioned this last week, the first album I ever bought back in 2007 was Alter Bridge's Blackbird. And I was
It's beautiful.
completely blown away. 62 minutes of amazing hard rock, post-grunge, heavy metal, alternative metal, all over the spectrum. The title track, Blackbird, is 8 minutes of amazingness. Probably one of my favourite songs of all time. Easily in my top 5 favourite songs of all time. I can't do that album justice. But my favourite Alter Bridge album is the most recent one. It's Fortress. Because I remember the hype. I remember feeling the hype leading up to that record. I remember legitimately losing sleep the night before release. Because I knew I was getting that in the post first thing in the morning from Amazon. I could not wait for that album to come out. And then it came. And it blew away every expectation I had. It has influences everywhere because Alter Bridge are pretty much a supergroup.
Yes, Creed.
Formed from Creed and the Mayfield Four.
Yeah.
And since then, of course, Mark Tremonti's gone on to a solo project. Miles Kennedy has gone on to work with Slash, and he's working on a solo record at the same time as well. Scott Phillips has gone on to do work with Projected. Brian Marshall did stuff with Mark Tremonti as well. He was a touring bassist. And this was the first album they made since they'd gone out and done all those things. So they made AB3, which is still a stunning record. They all went their separate ways, a bit of a hiatus, to do Slash, to do the Tremonti project, to do Projected. Then they all came back, and the things they learned...
The ideas.
The things they learned during those 2 years away, completely stunning, made for an amazingly varied record. Sometimes I can't believe that the songs Cry Me a River and Lover are even on the same album.
Yeah, they're that good.
Lover's probably, for me, the least good song.
I like It All Ends Well. That's
All
a
Ends
good
Well.
That's like a good...
The title track on Fortress is stunning.
And
second
the Achilles
best,
song. What's that?
Cry of Achilles.
Cry of Achilles.
Yeah,
is
that's on
awesome.
Guitar Hero right now.
The album opener.
Yeah.
Were you, just out of curiosity, you said Alter Bridge are your all-time favourite band.
Yes.
Why weren't you at Download 2014?
Why was I not at Download 2014? Because I spent all my money on Sonosphere 2014.
Nah,
Because I'd already seen Alter Bridge.
Oh, got you.
I said before in the last podcast, I'm a guy that does everything once.
Yeah.
I'd already seen Alter Bridge like 5 times by that point.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to take a break from Alter Bridge. I'd rather go to Sonosphere and see Iron Maiden.
Yeah, got you.
Metallica.
No, that's fair enough, man.
Yeah.
You made that.
Do you have a favourite Alter Bridge song?
Blackbird.
Blackbird.
Cool.
Anything more you want to add about Alter Bridge? Great live band, or
They are an amazing live band. First band I ever saw live.
was that the arena tour?
That was the arena tour with Blackstone Cherry and Theory of a Dead Man.
Nice one, man.
Good
memories for
amazing
you,
live
then.
performance. My first ever gig in Wembley frickin' Arena.
Yeah, great venue.
Great way to start out a career as a metalhead.
The last time I was there, by the way, was November, Motley Crue's farewell show in the UK. So and I've loved that night. Anyway,
I can't speak. Sorry, going back to Alter Bridge. I can't speak highly enough of Alter Bridge. They are my favourite thing in the world. Like you heard how passionate I got even when Matanza just said there are some people out there that don't like it. You saw how passionate I got with that. So this is a band I absolutely adore. Always have adored. And always will. I look forward to their new album coming out in 2016.
Yeah, can I just say, it is actually really refreshing to hear someone who is not saying the complete opposite of that, because yeah, I can admit Alter Bridge are a brilliant band. They really are that good. But it is just annoying the fact that there are so many people that I don't understand where they get the generic random stuff from.
Maybe because they heard their first album.
Yeah.
Alter Bridge's first album, even I will admit,
It's
was
very Creedy.
was very Creed.
Creedy.
yeah.
But then when Blackbird, people hear that first impression because they hear songs like Metalingus and they hear songs like One Day Remains. They're like, oh, that's very Creed. And then, but they don't hear the songs from Fortress. They don't hear the songs from Blackbird, which are like 8 minutes of progressive rock, which stun everyone that listens to it.
Exactly.
It's people being stubborn.
Yeah, that is just me as well. I was that same way in terms of hearing the songs. I give a band a fair shout, and I don't judge any band by its first album. So it is nice to actually hear a guy that feels more passionately, but still along the same lines that I do about Alter Bridge.
By the way, with me, my introduction to Alter Bridge was the first album I ever picked up by them when it was new at the time was AB3.
Yeah.
So you got into them probably before I did.
Yeah, a couple of years before you when Blackbird came out.
AB3 was brilliant.
AB3's dark. It's their darkest album.
Yes, but
It's an evil
Wonderful Life, so good.
Wonderful Life, it does get me teary-eyed.
I Know It Hurts is awesome, and obviously Isolation
is probably one of the heavier songs on the album.
Yes,
and it still works amazingly well.
Slip to the Void is also brilliant.
I remember when I saw them at Wembley, that Slip to the Void was that opener purely because it does start with that melancholic, sort of like really low moment that breaks into that heavy metal. Yeah. So I wish they could start. They stopped starting shows with Slip to the Void now, because now they start with Addicted to Pain, the new single from the new album.
Yes.
But I think they should always start with Slip to the Void. It was a song made to
for
start
opening
a show.
Set opener, yeah.
It is made to be a set opener, yet now they do it to start the encore, which I think is a real waste of an amazing opener.
Yeah, and also he messed it up at Wembley. Do you remember?
I think I did, yeah.
Yeah, it was the 2013. He forgot the words and he apologised or something.
Yeah.
It was the open bit in the encore. And it was
it wasn't Slip to the Void. It was Ghost of Days Gone By that he forgot.
I think it was Slip to the Void. But anyway, regardless of what song it was.
No, it was Ghost of Days Gone By because I've seen.
man.
No, I've watched the DVD back, and it's like
no, it wasn't the 2011 show. I'm on about the 2013 show at Wembley.
I wasn't there. I was at Cardiff.
Oh really?
I went to Cardiff show.
I went to Wembley. But anyway, Alter Bridge.
That will be why we're differentiating.
Alter Bridge is now officially summarised.
Totally, man, and great band. Good choice of number one.
Thank you.
I'm a fan. Yeah. Seen them. How many times have I seen them? 3 times now. Anyway, Matanza, you're number one, please.
Okay. As if it was really going to be anybody else. Springsteen.
Hang on a minute. I think we missed my number 2.
Who did you say your number 2 was?
I didn't.
Who's your number 2?
I'm so sorry. We went from Matt. Sorry, you were just. Do you know why I got confused then? This is really unprofessional of us, but we've caught onto it quickly. Guys, we went from... Okay, I did Pearl
Jam. We went from Matanza's number 2 straight to my number 1, didn't we?
Yeah, because you mentioned... there was something brief. Okay, Matt, we both have Bruce Springsteen. He's your number 1 because you just mentioned him, and he's my number 2.
Brilliant, so that's going to avoid repetition.
So we'll share it together then. When did you first get into him?
Okay, we'll share this. This is Matt's number 1 and my number 2. And so then after this, we'll go on to my number 1, and then it will be finished. It's really bad that we miscommunicated them. We'll just carry on.
You're lucky it's the same artist.
We are very lucky. But anyway, yeah, with Springsteen. Springsteen is, for me, the greatest American singer-songwriter of all time and the greatest live performer there's ever been. A guy who I've looked up to since I was in secondary school, and... for me, the definition of an American rock star, an icon, a gentleman, a man who can work with anyone, a man who can make different arrays of rock music, mostly in the heartland genre, very working class, very relatable, all real, and both male and female fans love the man, and he can play a Joiners-sized venue and make it work. He could play in front of 100,000 people and make it work. The set list changes, the 3.5-hour shows, what more to say, and brilliant current music. And every time Springsteen releases a new album, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, you've said a lot of great stuff there. And yeah, for me, Springsteen definitely is all of those things because there are very few people in the world of rock that you can imagine how can they get that big and tick that many boxes at first place without developing a huge ego, and Bruce simply shrugs it off because also, a fun fact, Bruce is actually too shy to even think about considering developing an ego. It's just something you can pick up about him. The guy, he doesn't do that many interviews, so if you ever got to do a documentary on Springsteen, you must consider yourself the most fortunate man out there. Because Bruce doesn't do too much beyond his live shows. He is an amazing performer. He does so much stuff. He is very outgoing on stage, but musically it's the only place where he really gets to show his true colours, and his true colours are incredible. Springsteen has an amazing back catalogue. Live performance-wise, if you're talking about flashy stuff, like pyrotechnics are nothing to do with it, but if you're on about someone who can basically do everything that Freddie Mercury and Steven Tyler both can do in one to classified performer, you're completely underestimating the definition of what a live performer is. Bruce is a poet, he's a live performer and a poet, making him essentially rock's greatest performance poet. Every song, is a story in its own right, which always has a vital message. Bruce has a band that love performing with him, a band that he respects beyond any shred of a doubt, and yeah, the boss is the boss. He is the only one that can really command the stage presence by which every other solo artist out there really should take note of and be respectful of it. You may have names out there like the Master, the King, but Bruce outdoes them all because he's the only consistent performer that has never done anything stupid or incredibly pathetic, by rock standards to make himself look lower than he could potentially be. The first album of his I ever bought was Born in the USA. It completely transformed my life because I saw a man who wasn't afraid to talk about the establishment in his own country, a man that has influenced me more as a poet than virtually any other actual poet. And yeah, most of my stuff tends to focus around emotional conflict, very similar to what I heard on my favourite Springsteen album, Darkness on the Edge of Town. The title track is actually one of my favourite songs of all time.
Nice one, man. My favourite album by Bruce is actually Born to Run. And my favourite more recent album is either The Rising or Magic over the past 15. Anything. I could talk about Bruce all day, but it's more about the artist and why.
Yeah.
You good?
I don't have much to say about Bruce Springsteen. Again, he's not something I really listen to. Again, I'm very much the metal guy.
Yeah.
I listen to death metal and thrash metal. I don't so much listen to Bruce Springsteen. Again, it's not out of elitism.
No.
I have tried. I've listened to Born in the USA. Everyone alive has listened to Born in the USA.
What, the song or the album?
Both.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I've listened to it and I like it, but I can't get into it the way I get into the heavier metals purely because that's just the way I'm wired.
No, I agree. It actually took me a while to get into Bruce. For me, I remember when I heard the greatest hits, I loved it, and then the first time I heard Magic or even Darkness, I struggled, but that was because I was younger then. Yeah. But then when I got older and I looked at the lyrics, like some of the earlier albums don't even necessarily sound that good, but it's when you go see him live, that's when it gets you. When you see clips of Springsteen live, that's when it really hits you.
If you know a show that is worth checking out, I can think of one that would really stand out for me. His 2003 live performance in Barcelona.
Yep, 2009 Hyde Park also.
Cool.
But yeah, can we now finish off with my number one?
DuPont's number one. Go for it.
Okay, and this is it. My all-time favourite band. At times, regrettably so, but they are a Kiss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that controversy I smell?
It is.
I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. When I was a young teen, but I've listened to Kiss before Bon Jovi, which is to some people crazy. Okay, this is it. What Kiss did for me as a young teenager is what Disney does to a lot of like children, and to what the Beatles did to the '60s.
Scarlet for Life?
Sorry.
Scarlet for Life, that's what Disney did to me.
Well, we're on about influence that just gets you fantasizing about work
Star
in the
Wars,
general industry.
Star Wars to some fans.
Okay, yeah, Star Wars, I fit that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, what I loved about my introduction to Kiss was like the first series of Rock School, Gene Simmons Rock School, and I actually listened to their music, and it was actually their '80s music which I first heard. Songs like "Heaven's on Fire," "Crazy Crazy Nights," "God Gave Rock and Roll to You," what else? "Tears Are Falling," "Lick It Up." And I thought that was really good. And I really liked Paul Stanley's vocal range, and I thought it sounded great. And then I listened to the '70s stuff like "Rock and Roll All Night," "Detroit Rock City," "Love Gun." And then I thought, wow, this band can write killer, really killer, like pop rock singles. And at the time, I was just getting into classic rock, so I'd never listened to Sabbath or Ozzy or Van Halen. I'd never listened to like any of those bands. And for me, and then I brought the albums, and then I realised the history of Kiss and how you had four New York dudes from the '70s who came together. All of them were singing, all of them were writing. And then how another thing which Kiss are really underrated for, because they're best known for their flamboyant live show. The first band to do pyrotechnics, the first shock rock band. Well, the second, Alice Cooper was the first, but Kiss were like four Alice Coopers, essentially. And one thing that is true is how they didn't just make a particular style. Kiss actually, believe it or not, made a heavy metal album and it worked. They made a pop album, it worked.
Yeah.
They even made a disco album and it worked. I'm not saying it's all good music, but Paul Stanley is as good a frontman to be a pop star, a rock star, a heavy metal star. Paul Stanley is that man.
Yeah.
And they also made, what else? Like I said, disco album. Their four solo albums were very unique as well. Like even Peter Chris's were very jazzy. And I know some diehard Kiss fans might be like, oh, those records sucked. But because I love music, full stop. Like I mentioned, I like Earth, Wind and Fire, and stuff, as well as liking bands like Silosis, Trivium, like Heck, bands, several, like I said, I love all different kinds of music, mostly guitar based, I must add. But for me, Kiss are... For me, is Kiss the best band I've ever listened to? No. Are they the best live band I've ever seen? No. But the way they introduced me to liking classic rock music, and for what they did for me as an obsessed young teen fan, and what the four characters symbolise them, and that certain songs could have only been written by each one of the four: the Spaceman, the Star Child, the Cat, and obviously the Demon, Gene Simmons. And let's just say that when I saw them in 2010, first time I saw them at Wembley Arena, it was still one of the greatest nights of my life. 6 years on, but 5 years on last year, they're not the same band. Paul Stanley's vocals have gone. They're slower as well. When Kiss come out on their platform boots, they need to be fast, quick, And essentially, Kiss have done a lot of stupid things that make me wonder, why are they my all-time favourite band? They're not in general my favourite band. I'm on about all time. And for me, this is it for me. Kiss's live show in 2010 and their overall back catalogue of different music. And believe it or not, and for me, my favourite album of theirs is Creatures of the Night. My favourite song is probably Sure Know Something. You might not know it. It's a song that I've shown you, but it's just the way how it combines different elements of rock and roll.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up because...
My favourite Kiss song is... I Was Made for Loving You, because it's in that amazing Costa Coffee advert.
Yeah.
Like his head comes out of the pile of beans. He's like, I was made for... It's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's it. And for me, like I said...
That's all I can contribute about Kiss, because I don't really know much about them.
Yeah, that's fine. Matt?
Okay. Yeah, my first introduction again was actually School of Rock, the first season. And the
Rock School.
Well, whatever it is, Rock School. I don't care. I remember the good movie more than I do the terrible ass kids that really were, they were entertaining to watch, but I think Gene just being the rock star, that immediately was like, oh, I'm interested. And yeah, God Gave Rock and Roll to You was my gateway to the Kiss world. I didn't really listen to too many songs after that, but on occasion I just typed in Kiss on YouTube and I was like, yeah, Crazy Crazy Nights was one that I got really obsessed with playing. I Was Made for Loving You was probably my favourite one of the time. And then moving on a bit further down the whole list, it's like I always liked Heaven's on Fire. I always liked other songs from, similar sort of eras, and I just like the way how Kiss really are. They're not the most diverse band, but they're diverse enough to do the job in whatever
I'll
they
tell
choose
you what,
to do.
this is what
I've
I think.
seen. Hold on, mate, because I really need to finish this bit off. I feel that while there are many bands out there that definitely do have more range in terms of what they can fuse into their own genre, Kiss are one of the bands that did it better when they had different areas they were willing to explore. So, yeah, their nature as people off the record does sometimes clash a little bit because, well, I do understand that, but ultimately their music, I go for the classic stuff that really makes me stand by what I've always said about them, which is they are great. They always did what they wanted to do. They always did what they felt they can do. And, yeah, forever. That's actually one of my favourite of their more recent stuff, going back to the 90s era. And, yeah, I've got very little that I can personally say about Kiss that isn't impressive.
Yeah, but I think we've actually discussed on an earlier episode. I think it was episode 3 or 4 when we spoke about the bad side of Kiss and how Paul Stanley says they're better than ever now when they're clearly not.
Yeah.
In the 1970s, Kiss were the best live band in the world, considered at the time. They helped influence, the likes of Slipknot. They helped influence bands like Motley Crue.
Oh yeah, that imagery is undying.
Yes,
like,
very.
You always hear interviews with like modern bands, like I saw Kiss and I wanted to be the next Gene Simmons.
Yes.
Like
like
that's a line I've heard a million
Lordi.
times.
Yeah, like Lordi. Look, the Lordi guys, their favourite band are Kiss.
Oh yeah, you can tell.
Yes.
Lordi are very similar to Kiss.
Yes. And the interesting thing is, I know you guys mentioned I was made for loving you, but I just feel like, I think, I don't know how much classic rock you listen to, Mills, but for me, Destroyer by Kiss is like one of the definitive classic rock albums.
I don't listen to much Kiss because Matanza touched on what they're like off the record.
Yeah.
That sort of.
No, of course, they're a bunch. They can be a bunch of pricks.
Yeah.
By the way,
I must admit, I hope you don't mind my saying, for your favourite band of all time, you're not selling them as much as you did like Springsteen.
No. Do you know why? It was because. I know what you mean. Like Pearl. Yeah, for me, I can understand. You could. What you're trying to say is, Alex, Kiss don't have to be your all-time favourite band. You just choose them to be.
Yeah.
At the moment, credibility-wise and music-wise, I prefer Pearl Jam and Springsteen, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it was just for me, the 2010 gig and the way they got me into
dying again. He's back to death.
Yeah, it was the way they got.
Shut up.
Yeah, it was just the way they got me into classic rock.
Yeah. Okay.
It was you were saying about introductions, the 2010 gig and their back catalogue.
Introductions are very important.
Yeah, they helped.
Alter Bridge introduced me to rock and roll.
Did they? Nice one, man. And that's awesome. And by the way, before we wrap up this segment, can I say great job with that, guys. We didn't hit our top fives. No Iron Maiden, no AC/DC, no Metallica. No Slayer. That's absolutely brilliant.
That's what they'd be expecting us to say.
Yes, of course.
Why would they be saying that? It's called the Irrelevant RockCast.
By the way, can I apologise for including all massively popular bands in my list? They just are.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
They're popular for a reason. They include some people.
Yeah. I'm just such a hipster that all my favourite bands are inherently the ones that sort of aren't on that top layer of exposure the same way Kiss are.
Yeah.
Like my favourites are sort of like the grungy, dirty underground bands, like Silo. Like there's no one here on my list. Maybe Machine Head that I'd call mainstream metal. Maybe Machine Head and Trivium. But other than that,
Matanza.
Yeah, I would say that. I think this really just goes back to the point, like the Irrelevant RockCast, it is meant to be about rock. Rock is, as I've said multiple times on here, a spectrum. Yeah, if you're a headbanger, ultimately there is room for you here because, well, hey, rock is a spectrum that you fit into. But one thing that I really don't understand is why people feel the need to have divides in there because there are subgenres, there are genres like
this might be.
Hold on, was just going to finish off by saying, those people that say there is a clear distinction between rock and metal, well, rock gave birth to metal. You can hear in some bands, like the clear blues influence on early stuff like metal albums from Deep Purple, and then Led Zeppelin, which people do have a bit of a fire ice sort of relationship with calling metal or not. If anything, they definitely did stuff with the themes of metal, but they didn't necessarily fit 100% into the nature of what metal might be. But yeah, there is many things that we can talk about. This isn't meant to be a very metal-specific podcast. If anything, we like to think of ourselves as the podcast for people, all-inclusive at download.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can pretty much wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Because like we can talk about the divide between subgenres. That can be a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But I think we've done what we set out to do. We've done what we said at the beginning we would do.
Nice one.
I think we can wrap this one up.
Totally. Matt Mills, can you quickly talk about what we're going to be including on next week's show?
That's a very good question. Let me find the piece of paper that says. Thank you very much.
Matanza.
We don't use notes here, by the way. We're being very professional. Right. So next week we are going to talk about the download announcements. We are going to DuPont is going to do a review of Slipknot in London and Bowling for Soup at the Southampton Guildhall. Yeah. I'm going to be talking about Wilson, the hard rock band that I mentioned last week. I'm going to be doing an exclusive review of Anthrax's new album For All Kings, which doesn't come out until the end of the month. Hear my review and hear my opinion early. See whether you should buy that. And also the other main event is going to be, we're going to be doing another top 5, since I think this went really well.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing another top 5, our top 5 favourite rock or metal albums of all time.
Yeah.
See you later, folks.
Mr. DuPont out.
Matanza Mafia Fedora out.
Matt Mills, out.